Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Landy Lodge, where today we're talking Final Fantasy VII, the best girl Cissnei, and Gongaga, and how Rebirth got that area, that chapter, and everything that it represents to the trilogy completely right, in my opinion. If you find yourself agreeing or disagreeing, please do not hesitate to share your thoughts, whether you tune in with us live or you watch this after the fact. Speaking of which, let's give a quick shout out to some of our early birds. I see we've got Dark Dragon, Hyrule Falcone, Doc Holiday, Tiger Weirdo, Lance the Master, and Jeffrey the Lion over on Kick. Here as we start. Lance, thank you for being here. Best mod in the game. Tiger Weirdo says, I wonder what the lyrics of the Gongaga theme is. That's not a terrible question to be asking. Gongaga was peak, says Doc Holiday. Couldn't agree more. Hyrule Falcone says, love me an FF7 episode for the drive. And Dark Dragon says, it's probably the most improved area over the OG. Which, again, I'm going to share a lot of my opinions on the entire Gongaga region today. I figure why hesitate? Let's jump into that as soon as we can. Let me just fix the quality on this video. There we go, a little 1080p for us. Okay, so look, before we talk about Gongaga, what the gameplay chapter was like, the sort of story scenes that it revealed to us, among other things. This is running, right? Yeah, good. First, let's talk a little bit about how this sort of fits into the FF7 trilogy, and when we consider what the devs have told us they're trying or attempting or aiming to do with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, in my opinion, Gongaga is a shining example, perhaps the shining example on a hill, of what this trilogy has to offer and what it's aiming to do. Now, don't worry, we're going to watch a lot of specific scenes with audio to do a further breakdown. So if there's something on the scene you see that intrigues you, don't worry, we're going to go into a full-blown analysis of it. I mostly want to analyze the Gongaga region, then analyze Cissnei, and then analyze Tifa. And we could do a little bit of Aerith. There's a lot that goes on in the Gongaga chapter, but I think primarily Cissnei and Tifa, with perhaps a united Cloud and Aerith front, are the three sectors that move the story forward the most. Because again, not every location is created equal in FF7. Some move the stories further more than others. I just think Gongaga is an example that's rolling on all cylinders. So, another thing I want to add, perhaps before we get into the nitty-gritty of things like plot and narrative, which is, really our forte here. First, I want to say that when it comes to creating an atmosphere, right? One of my favorite things in RPGs is to go to other towns and see other cultures and other ways of life that make a world feel lived in, that make a world feel like it has a lot to offer. Games where every town essentially functions and looks the same has a sense of bleeding together, whereas I think games like FF7, because so many of these towns are unique, not just in what they have to offer the player or what happens in the story, but in terms of the atmosphere they provide, I think it's part of what makes a journey not only worthwhile, but allows different points along the journey to stand out. So on one front, what Gongaga atmospherically has to offer that really differs itself from the rest of the FF7 world is that it's not nearly as industrialized as everywhere else. Whether you're talking about Midgar, whether you're talking about Junon, whether you're even talking about Wutai and how that's likely to appear, Gongaga, for lack of a better term, is just greener. And we'll get into the symbolism of this, but of all the towns, perhaps even Cosmo Canyon included, it's perhaps the most in touch with the planet and the most in touch with that way of life, which is why it's flourishing, which is why, and again, it's not just the greenery and it's not just the mushrooms and the crops. What you see is a town that's at peace, a town that is self-sustaining, a town that has, for lack of a better term, figured it out. That's separate from Midgar. The reactor's busted, and we'll get into that too. So it's not as if they're reliant on Midgar and Mako to live this way of life. They're here doing it the OG way, for lack of a better term, They're here doing it without being overly reliant on Mako, without being overly reliant on Shinra. They're, in a sense, it's a self-sustaining town. Now, there's no way to really differentiate about how they got this right than to maybe talk about what Gongaga was in the original, which in the original, it certainly was a very worthwhile spot on the journey, but the whole town was just one flat screen. Basically a flat JPEG with some houses you could walk into, and you could encounter a cutscene with Zack's parents that leads to, an awkward interaction when you leave the home with Aerith and Tifa. So Gongaga served its purpose in the original game, but it was just one of those areas that had to be very quick, almost like a snapshot of what that area had to offer. And I'm not saying that to FF7's detriment. Like FF7 is one of my favorite games of all time. When it comes to the original game, there's not a thing that I would change. So I'm not saying that to the original's detriment, but what I am saying is if you're going to do a remake like this, what you have to do is take a town like Gongaga, which in a sense was a snapshot on the journey, and make it into something more. Now, of course, that's my opinion. There are people who are going to think differently than me. There are people who are going to, maybe they wish Gongaga remained just a snapshot on the journey. That's fine. But in terms of what the devs are aiming for, and they've always vocalized that this is what they're aiming for, they want to keep it true to the original, but allow a lot more things to flesh themselves out, allow more areas to breathe and have character, while maintaining as much of the original as they can. So when we think of Gongaga and how big and expansive it was compared to the previous game, I'd say this is everything that they were aiming to do. Now, again, I want to mention a little bit more about its aesthetics. Obviously the Gongaga mushrooms are a big deal, referenced quite often in this chapter, and I just do think it is pretty interesting, and I do love it. Here, maybe we can go back a little bit, where there's one in a more clear shot. Is like the houses, if you look, are shaped like mushrooms too, which that's from the original as well, but I just think it's just one of those details that I'm glad they kept after all this time. And here, we'll go back to here and let it run. So again, consider that the town of Gongaga is this town that seems to embody the lessons and the themes of FF7 better than the rest of the map. Now, what I want to talk about is that's no accident when you consider this is where Zack grew up. That this is exactly the kind of place where a hero would be born, where a hero would be raised. Because again, when he looks around, everybody living by example in the sense of taking care of their town, being self-reliant. Again, we see Cissnei, who, is the leader of the youth coalition, which is like a neighborhood watch. Like, they surveil themselves, they secure themselves, they provide for themselves. So it's no accident that Zack, who in a lot of senses represents the mythological hero of Final Fantasy VII, that Zack sets the example of what a hero is for characters like both Cloud and Cissnei to follow, that it would make sense that the town he is from, and this is a good view too, that the town he is from is forthrightly living the lessons of the planet the way Zack forthrightly lives out the lessons of the hero. And for that, I can appreciate that Gongaga did a really, really good job in Rebirth of driving that point home. That it makes sense that the hero of FF7, not that Cloud isn't, not that the party isn't, but Zack, in terms of like mythologically speaking, the hero of FF7 came from Gongaga, a self-sustaining, self-reliant, aspirational place like this. And with that, we take a swig. And there we go. Tiger Weirdo says, let's hope after part 3 the focus will be on KH4. We'll see. I would like that, don't get me wrong, but we'll see. Today, the day belongs to FF7, as they say. But, so getting back into it, let's see. I do want to talk about Gongaga broadly first, then we'll get into Cissnei, and then we'll pivot over to what more transpires between Tifa and Cloud and Aerith. So let me make sure I got this. Like I said, mastered Rebirth's approach. I think the best way to do this is now to actually, let's get into it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Okay, let's draw this back to when they first run into Cissnei. We're going to start with Cissnei, because she's obviously a big part of this chapter. Let's draw it back to when she's first going to appear. She's a major part of this chapter, and look, there's a lot of discussion about what this trilogy is, what purpose it's serving. I know there's debate. Is it a remake? Is it a reimagining? Is it a time loop? Is it a sequel? We all have our own opinions. Part 3 will reveal ultimately what's going on. Personally, I'm of the camp that the trilogy is remade, but it's not a trilogy. It's not a remake of just OG FF7. It's a remake of the original FF7 that includes depth and expanded lore from the compilation. So in a way, it's almost like remaking the compilation through the chronology of the original narrative. That's why you see characters like Cissnei make an appearance, and characters like Cissnei carry so much narrative weight during these chapters. So, getting back to, again, what the Rebirth, what the trilogy approach is. If the idea is to take elements from the compilation and further elevate them, further expand on them, further give them depth, then I can think of no better example or perhaps character than Cissnei. Again, we think about the whole compilation. I'm talking Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus, Traces of Two Past, The Kids Are All Right, On the Way to a Smile, Advent Children. You think about every original character that was added after the original FF7. And even though Cissnei's technical first appearance wasn't before Crisis as Shuriken, the truth is the character of Cissnei comes out of Crisis Core. She was really more of an avatar in Before Crisis, but the character of Cissnei does come straight out of Crisis Core. And in my opinion, everybody else is free to share theirs. I have a lot of characters who came from the compilation that I like Angeal, really big Angeal fan. I think he's a great addition to the cast in terms of Zack's legacy, the Buster Sword legacy. I love all of that. But ultimately speaking, I think the best character the compilation added is Cissnei, for a lot of reasons that we're going to go over today. But I do believe this is the one of, if not the best character the compilation added, and giving her this chapter in Gongaga makes her an infinitely more deep character. It completes, in a sense, completes her character arc from Crisis Core opening her up to do something new if they wanted to in part 3. And again, just us in a sense, by leveling up Cissnei, by elevating her in this way, you've added more layers to the depth of FF7. And to start us off, allow me to say this. Going back to Zack, because there's no way to talk about Gongaga without talking about Zack. You know, Zack is the mythological hero of FF7. And in a sense, everybody is striving to live out that heroic pattern as a result of Zack. We see Aerith embody the hero from Zack's inspiration. We see Cloud embody the hero from Zack's inspiration. But one of the greatest parts of this chapter, in my opinion, is that we see after Crisis Core that Cissnei is another one who was inspired by Zack and now lives out his heroic mythology in her own way. You know, you look at Zack, especially from Crisis Core, when he becomes Soldier First Class, and then he becomes a leader of men, you know, especially in that one scene where he's given like a hype up talk and stuff. He just becomes a leader of men within Shinra. And we actually see that here in Gongaga, Cissnei has become a leader of men of her own. By leading this youth coalition, she's become this forthright leader, this heroic inspiration for this town of Gongaga, making her yet another character that's living out the legacy of a hero stemming off of Zack. And again, you don't get that from Crisis Core. Okay, Crisis Core ends really, again, Cissnei always liked Zack, you know, was always kind to him, was on his side, always willing to help him. But she never embodied or lived out the hero path by the end of Crisis Core. And, you know, there just wasn't enough time to do that. Now that we have answers of what happened to Cissnei after Crisis Core, it not only makes Cissnei better, it not only makes Crisis Core better, it not only makes Gongaga better, it makes the world of Final Fantasy VII better. Because again, you have this character Zack, who, if he's going to be your hero, you need to see the inspiration all over. And just Cissnei has become another character that embodies that. But now, let's actually watch these scenes where they approach. And we'll do a little bit of analyzing. We're going to watch a lot of scenes today. So I actually think this is going to end up a longer episode, because I do have a lot of scenes that I want to watch. Let me make sure I turn this on for you guys so you can hear it. I'll mute myself just in case. But let's watch this scene real quick. And I'm going to point out the stuff that I find interesting. But let's give this a go.
For the blasted things.
Wow.
Passing through. You.
What?
Okay, first detail that I think some people miss. It's pretty obvious, but things happen quick. Some people miss it. Obviously, Cissnei recognized Cloud from the end of Crisis Core. But what Cloud recognized was that Cissnei recognized him. He doesn't recognize Cissnei, but you can't fool Cloud. He saw it. And just something to hold on to, that throughout this whole chapter, Cloud pretty much knows what Cissnei is. He figures it out pretty quickly. Ocean0077, thank you for the follow on Twitch. We do appreciate it. Welcome to the lodge. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're a fan of FF7, as that's our topic today. But anyway, let's get back into it. Keep that in mind that while the rest of the party seems to be a little bit more naive about Cissnei, Cloud figures it out pretty quickly that, you know, she holds a lot of truths close to the chest, and he figures out that she's still working with Shinra or has Shinra intel. Just worth noting. Ocean says, I love this game. Very excited for next week. Me too. Let's hope we get some news, Mr. or Mrs. Ocean.
Nothing. For a second, I thought you were someone else. Who are you people?
Aye, you'll do.
More importantly, why are you here? Not to survey the reactor, I presume.
Ah, no, just to study it. We're on a wee field trip, you see?
So again, you saw from Cissnei's reaction She recognized Kate Sith. Kate Sith recognizes her. Basically saying, let's keep this on the DL. But again, it's nothing that Cloud doesn't see. That's what I do appreciate about the chapter is even with them being obvious right here, it's not as if Cloud didn't notice this, and it's not as if Cloud didn't take note. Because they have no illusions about Kate Sith. They know he's with Shinra Intel as well. So, just worth noting. Just worth noting. Let's keep it going.
Well then.
Aww.
Welcome to Gongaga. I'm Cissnei, Coalition Captain. And sorry, didn't mean to startle you before.
And like I said, guys, living out Zack's legacy. She becomes a leader of men. She becomes a hero. You know, again, still working with Shinra very clearly, but interesting to see. Ocean 0077 says, question, do you think higher chance we see part 3 in State of Play or Summer Games Fest? Summer Games Fest all the way. Summer Games Fest all the way. You got to remember that Square Enix is moving away from exclusivity, and I don't think that means that we won't see FF7 at State of Plays, but I think it means that PlayStation is no longer their priority, and they would probably prefer to show this at Summer Games Fest with a much broader audience tuning in. That's my opinion. Sora says, sup guys, what's going on, Sora? And Under the Apple Tree. Isn't it amazing? Honestly, that's another part of the Gongaga chapter that was incredible, was the Crisis Core soundtrack coming back in. And again, it's not an accident. She, too, is Zack's legacy. Like, it's not just the Buster Sword. It's not just Cloud. It's characters like Cissnei, too, that are Zack's legacy. And even Kunsel, who I hope we see in part 3, is another example of somebody who could be part of Zack's legacy. And there's something I want to point out, and I'll point it out more throughout the episode. What Gongaga, what's up, Loro? What Gongaga helps to reveal, guys, is one of the recurring themes in FF7, but more forthrightly in this FF7 trilogy, and it's that there's an inner conflict with everything. Everything is having a civil war. Everything in FF7, there's a civil war. Okay, the planet between Lifestream White and Lifestream Black, represented by the white and black whispers in this game, the planet's Lifestream is going through a civil war of either maintaining itself or giving in to Sephiroth and Genova's corruption. Cloud is undergoing like an inner civil war about whether to hold on to himself and who he really is or to give in to Sephiroth and Genova's corruption. Let me think of another one. Shinra, that's the point of this. Shinra is going through their own sort of civil war in a sense. Not just with Rufus taking his father's seat as president, but you got to remember, right? So you have the old guard in Shinra, represented by Hojo, Scarlet, Heidegger, Palmer. But then there's the new guard, represented by Rufus, Sung, and as we're seeing here, oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. Hold on. One second. I'm forgetting. Oh my god. Anyway. Within Shinra, there's a civil war going on between the old guard and the new guard. Essentially, with characters like Rufus, with characters like Sung, with characters like Cissnei, as we see that she still has Shinra intel. She's clearly communicating with somebody, right? She's clearly communicating with somebody. She clearly knew to be on the lookout for Cloud and the gang arriving, in a sense. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I don't know why. Reeve too. So when you think of Shinra, Reeve is a sort of a part of this civil war fighting against the old guard. Rufus and Sung, in a sense, are part of this sort of Shinra civil war fighting against the old guard. I imagine Cissnei is a part of this too, which might explain why characters like Rufus and Cissnei can see the whispers, but we'll talk about that later too. That being said, when you look throughout FF7, there are these inner conflicts happening everywhere that are breaking out, that have schismed into a civil war between the Lifestream and the planet, Lifestream White, Lifestream Black, the planet, Genova, whether it be Cloud, everything going on within him, between himself and Sephiroth, whether it be Shinra. Everywhere you look, you have this sort of split. I mean, even again, and this is where the changes fall into FF7's themes, is it's like even the perception of reality has split. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Reeve. Yes, Tiger Weirdo. Thank you. Trouser says, I only think we see it at State of Play if PlayStation is in charge of the marketing. Yeah, and we know they're not. We know they broke away from they broke away from exclusivity. They're clearly going to want FF7 Part 3 to drop on Switch 2 day one. Clearly. Josh Z says, Landy, I literally stopped moving forward and just listened to the music for like 15 minutes. That happened to me in Gongaga a lot. I found myself like pausing and taking it easy quite a lot in Gongaga. Like it really, you know, there's a point coming up where Cissnei seriously instructs Cloud to get some rest. And that's really what Gongaga felt like. It really did feel like a nourishing stop on the journey. You know what I'm saying? Landy, do you think Part 3 will be a multi-platform release? I do. I most certainly do. I think they'd be foolish not to. Okay, let's keep it going.
Doing our jobs. Back to your posts.
Ma'am.
You'll get a clear view of the reactor from that hill. Make sure to pay your respects, though.
Of course.
Come on. Our village is a quiet one, as you can tell. Let's keep it that way.
And really pay attention to the dialogue on the way up.
Don't get a lot of visitors, what with the jungle. Can't even remember the last time. But that's part of this place's charm, I suppose.
My bad. Forgot to unmute. I'm unmuted now. We're good. I was just calling attention to the prayer hands. How the girls all seem to do the prayer hands, but the guys just sort of bow their heads.
Thank you. So what is this?
3 years ago, the reactor here suffered a catastrophic failure. It was old and couldn't handle the stress.
It needed maintenance, which Shinra never provided.
So again, one thing worth noting is this accident with the reactor happened 3 years ago. And just remember, in FF7 timeline, that end of Crisis Core, not end of Crisis Core, but 5 years ago was Nibelheim. This was 3 years ago. So you have this era of Shinra where things are just kind of falling apart. The infrastructure they built when they dominated the land is sort of just falling apart. And it's very clear, and I think they even mention it later, that it's after this accident is when Cissnei came to Gongaga. So it's as if the reactor blew up and Cissnei made it her business to be stationed out here.
And then one day... So, they're cheap as well. This was the company's way of trying to make amends.
I'm surprised they even made the effort.
And thanks to the hard work of our people, Gongaga rose from the ashes, right?
That's nice and all, but...
What's going on, Andy? Something else I want to bring up. Is something this chapter does really well. Is show you not just certain characters and their arcs and their flaws and what they're going through, but the dynamics where Cloud might be our main character, but Barret is very much the leader of this pack. You know? Like, Barret very much is the leader of this pack. Again, Cloud might be the main character, the main protagonist, but Barret is this crew's leader. Andy says there's no way she's appearing in Part 3, right? She's absolutely appearing in Part 3, Andy. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ocean says, what is your guess on the release month of part 3? I'm going to guess March, April 27. That's my guess.
One memorial doesn't buy absolution.
You guys must be tired. I know you've got things to do, but if you wanted to rest up.
Wouldn't they say no?
My house is just down there. Got an open door policy, so feel free. Woohoo! Don't mind if I do! I'm, gonna take a look around. Seriously, get some rest, okay?
So, interesting that she would say that to him. Interesting that she would say that to him, because, again, like, she doesn't know much about Cloud personally other than that final encounter with Zack, but she very clearly knows not just the kind of journey he's on, but the journey that lies ahead. Almost cautioning him to make sure he gets some rest. Now wait, there's a few lines here that I think are important.
Those Gongaga mushrooms you found? They're all yours if you want them. We got more than our fair share. Didn't settle down here until after the reactor incident.
Yep, there you go. After the reactor incident is when she came to Gongaga.
Place may not seem like much compared to Midgar, but it's more than enough for me.
That Cissnei lassie was right, you know. If Shinra had wanted to, they could have done something about the reactor. But instead, they looked the other way. Willful negligence killed those people, and everyone thinks Avalanche are the bad guys.
So there you go, Kate Sith filling us in, and you see that, you know, the purpose of him saying that is Reeve is clearly conflicted. You know, Reeve has the inside information. He understands that this was willful negligence which led to the disaster, and that and he knows that Shinra is scapegoating Avalanche. Now, Avalanche has blood on their hands. They're not innocent. But he knows that Shinra continues to scapegoat Avalanche as if they're a bunch of useful idiots or controlled opposition. Before crisis. Anyway, and he understands that. And that's why he sympathizes with a lot of these guys who were in Avalanche, or at least part of those bombing reactor missions. Keep it rolling.
Sad.
Aerith
hasn't been herself
every
since we
minute of
got
every day.
here,
We'll
has
see
she?
more of it.
Wonder why. Does she know the place?
Telling species apart can be difficult.
Okay, this part is a little bit of extra. We could skip over Reds. Not that it's not a cool moment, but let's...
They'd make for a mean stock. Doubt there's much it wouldn't improve.
Same with this one. You know me, I love Tifa. But in terms of a deep analysis, we can skip over that part. Barrett, let's go.
Self moving out here, living off the land.
Back it
This
up.
thing settled down. I could see myself moving out here, living off the land. Be a nice change of pace. Just me, Marlene, and our little piece of paradise. Wonder what kind of stuff we'd end up growing.
Okay, I am seeing a lot of comments in the chat about Genesis. Do I think Genesis will show up in part 3? He will not show up. It's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to say. I don't think he's going to play a crucial role. I can say that with confidence. I do not believe Genesis is going to play a crucial role in part 3. Do I think he shows up in one fashion or another? Absolutely. Absolutely. Whether in a flashback, whether as a super boss, whether Zack runs into him, I think we see Genesis absolutely. Will he be inserted into the main surface narrative? I don't think so.
Mushrooms.
What? 'Cause it's our lucky food? Don't tell
Secret
me you
boss, I
believe
could
that
say.
mumbo jumbo. Still, you might be onto something. Gongaga mushroom farming sounds like a license to print gift. Shinra's doing its damnedest to bleed the planet dry, but she's still got life in her, and we gotta help her keep what's left.
So again, that's what Gongaga is showing you, right? While there's a lot of places you've traveled to on the map are pretty desolate, whether it's, and that's not to say they're bad places, but, you know, places like Junon, places like Midgar, where you came from. You know, these are places that are not exactly booming with life. Or even, you know, you look at Corel or Cosmo Canyon. Again, from Corel to Cosmo Canyon to Junon to Midgar, what you're seeing is just an over-industrialized world, right? A place where the Shinra virus is spreading, but then you get to Gongaga, and everything is green, and everything is self-reliant, and they don't have a reactor anymore. And as Barrett says, you can see that the planet still has fight in her. And that's what this chapter is designed to show you. There's a point they say it outright, is that it's showing you the planet isn't, you know, it's not so extreme that the planet is dying. The planet is in trouble, but she still has plenty of life in her, plenty of life force in her. And that's what Gongaga is showing us.
I am so...
Okay, I love Yuffie's little song, but we're going to skip over that.
Here we go. I'll have a dream.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now we're talking. This is where things get fun.
Oh, Cloud.
Friend of yours? Come in.
Please.
Your eyes. You're a soldier, aren't you?
Was.
You wouldn't happen to know our son, would you? Zack?
Okay. Something I want you guys to notice about Zack's parents. Okay, obviously, and you see it when it's a little bit closer up to his face, you know, Zack is a spitting image of his father. Spitting image of his father. But if you notice, Zack's mother has a resemblance to Aerith. Now, let me be clear in case people take what I'm saying too literally. No, I'm not saying Aerith's mom that Aerith and Zack's mom are related. I'm not saying that. But if you look at the way she's presented to you, there is a resemblance. The hair is similar. The red on the outfit. Seeing Zack's dad and Zack's mom together, they resemble Zack and Aerith. And I believe that's done on purpose. Again, Nomura could have had Zack's mom wear any color. Okay, a lot of colors. Okay? Lots of colors. But what you see is the same red and pink motif on her outfit. That is purposeful. I do believe that Zack's parents are meant to resemble, obviously not just Zack, but Zack and Aerith. A similar pairing in that sense.
Are you all right?
Fine. What did you say his name was?
Zack. Zack Fair.
Zack? Sorry. No.
And you see what I like about Cloud here, and it shows him and Cissnei are alike in some ways, in that they're not so quick to speak their truth. They play things close to the chest. And in Cissnei's case, it's because she's secretive. In Cloud's case, it's because he's confused. So you can tell that, like, he can't put a face on Zack's name, but you can tell that something is stirring within him about that name.
Our son just up and...
And again, the resemblance is all I'm calling attention to. Do you think part 3 will end with us stopping Meteor, or will it be open-ended like OG? I think it ends with us stopping Meteor, and I think what you get now is an epilogue that shows you everyone's okay. What you got in OG was like a flashbang ending. 500 years later, Midgar has fallen, but humanity lives. That's essentially the ending of OG. What they're going to give you now, in my opinion, is an epilogue that allows the player to feel like the characters and the world is going to be okay. Because even though they have their struggles post-OG, read On the Way to a Smile if you're curious about that, at the end of the day, on the way to a smile, every character makes their way to their happiness. Every character makes their way on that road. And I think while OG ended so abruptly and it led to a lot of interesting conversations among the fan base, the truth is, with the release of the compilation, Advent Children in particular, the question of did they survive was answered. So a big part of that question, because you knew humanity survived, and you knew Red 13 survived, and usually that's enough for you to deduce, okay, look, if Nanaki is here, then the rest of them survived that too. But the point is, there's no more of that even having that lingering question. So now I think you're just going to get an epilogue that's gives you a little bit more closure. Wait a sec, Landy, if we go back to Gongaga, Cloud could just be like, yeah, I fought with your son. It was epic. That is so funny. Like, so I found your son, but... That would be a very interesting explanation he'd have to give. Okay. Let me catch up with chat a little bit here. Andy says Cissnei over Aerith. I mean, Cissnei is best girl. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
Left one day, determined to chase his dreams. At first, he wrote us all the time, but...
When I first saw you, I thought, maybe this is the girl he was always talking about. Sorry if I made you feel uncomfortable.
I doubt I was the only woman in his life. Charming guy like Zack.
Now, you see, I've seen some people take a little bit of an issue with that line, but you also have to remember that, like, Aerith truly doesn't know. Aerith truly does not know what happened to him. Neither do the parents. Nobody really knows. This might be something she tells herself to soften the blow. But what this leads to, again, this is why I'm a big fan of characters that have flaws and doubts and insecurities, is what this will lead to, evidently, in my opinion, Aerith and Zack will reunite within the live stream. Aerith and Zack will reunite. And when she realizes that, no, he didn't just ghost her, he didn't just stop responding to and reading the letters, there's going to be a reunion between the two, a coming together where she realizes what had happened. She, in a sense, will come to her own realization and truth. Okay, wait, so technically Cloud seeing Zack with the Buster Sword in the finale, doesn't that give him proof that he wasn't Soldier First Class? Here's the thing. Cloud is the type of guy right now where he could be presented with all the proof in the world, but he is going to continue to convince himself of his own delusions. Because if Cloud stops convincing himself of his own delusions, he's going to break. Bottom line. And we'll see it happen. We'll see it happen. But it's when he can no longer convince himself of these delusions, his mind will absolutely shatter. And that's why, like you're saying, Ocean, he has enough to deduce the truth about himself, but he doesn't have the capacity to accept it. What's up, Steed? Steed says, Ocean, given that we never saw Cloud and Zack with the sword in the same spot, this probably proves that the edge of creation is outside of reality. It's a mental construct, sort of. Yeah, the edge of creation, to me, seems as though it is the furthest point in chronological time. That's what the edge of creation seems to be, because every moment creates the next moment. And every moment creates the next moment. So if you're at the edge of creation, to me, that means you're at the edge of time, right? The next thing to be created is just past that edge. And with that is the next moment. Anyway, next memory, things like that. So that's how I've sort of conceptualized edge of creation, but we will see it.
Wherever he is, I hope he's enjoying himself at least. They do say no news is good news, right?
They sure do.
Say, if you do happen to see Zack, would you tell him that we miss him and to please get in touch?
Of course I will. We should probably be heading back, don't you think?
What? Already? At least have something to eat before you go.
Thanks, but we don't want to keep our friends waiting.
Another time, then.
You know, Steve brought up something interesting here. Says, I interpreted it as the one spot where Sephiroth truly exists, because technically he's dead physically. And I always understood it to mean he can only exist through Cloud. So yeah, if the edge of creation is something within Cloud, I could see that applying. I could see that. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a long episode today, boys and girls. I'll tell you that.
Here.
Hey.
So again, this is something else that I like too. Take note of Cloud's expression here, because this is what I really like about the Gongaga chapter, is things that, like the delusions Cloud is convincing himself of. The walls are thinning. Sorry, I heard a weird noise in my house. My dog might be like howling in his sleep or something. Just give me a second. Let me go check on him. Let me go check on him. That was a little odd. All right, give me a second, guys. Let me go check on my boy. Okay. My bad on that, guys. I know two songs were just playing over each other, but we're okay. Little man is all good, and we can get back to it. I will definitely have to crop that segment out after it rolls. But anyway, let's keep this going. So again, his expression, like Cloud can sense something is up. You know what I mean? He can sense that there's something about Zack that's resonating within him.
Hey. That wasn't very nice of me. You remember me telling you about Zack, right? At the playground? How he was my first love?
Yeah.
This is where he grew up.
Which, can I say something? And this is why it is important to point these things out when they happen. So you see that Aerith continues to refer to Zack as first love. First love. First love. There was a scene previously in the game, because I saw this confuse some people, that Tifa and Aerith were clearly secretly talking about Zack and Cloud and all that behind their backs, or secretly, right? And again, there's a scene earlier before the parade where Aerith tries to sneak Tifa away and says, let's talk about boys, which points to the same thing per se, but it doesn't have the same effect as her saying first loves. Let's talk about our first loves, which is what she says in Japanese. That helps this scene make a lot more sense when she refers to him that way. And then when Tifa and Aerith have the conversation privately, you now know that what's happening here in Gongaga with Cloud and Zack, does he remember, doesn't he remember? That's exactly what they were talking about when they had a moment alone. Let's keep it rolling.
And now that I'm here, it's a lot. So when I saw someone who looked like him, I don't know, I had to say something.
So when I saw someone who looked like him, I had to say something. That is the same compulsion that draws her to Cloud, by the way.
Didn't even occur to me to think how they would feel about it. Pretty selfish, huh? Waltzing in there, stirring up memories.
I don't know.
Steed is on it. My man Steed is on it. I was gonna get to this when we got to the like the reactor scene. But as Steed points out, a lot starts to go downhill after these moments. As if this was the opening Sephiroth needed. And we'll get into that. But After this encounter in Gongaga, suddenly the walls of Cloud's delusions are so thin, Sephiroth is gaining more influence, and that is displayed in this chapter.
They didn't seem to mind.
Sure they did. But thanks.
So, this Zack guy, you still like him?
Wow. You went there, huh? Maybe. He's never given me a reason not to. Any news? Nothing.
So you see, that threw some people off. Like, any news? Like, oh, since when were they even talking about this? Which, again, earlier in the game, that line, boys, should have stayed as our first loves, to give you the insight that the two of them clearly are talking about this off screen, away from Cloud.
No calls, no letters.
Oh,
Leaving you out in the cold like this? Forget about that loser.
And I love this because it's like, yeah, if Cloud remembered who Zack was, he would never in a million years refer to him as such. So I did find that little exchange funny.
He's a soldier, right? Then I hate to break it to you, but if he's been gone this long, the man is dead.
That wall was thinning. That wall was thinning.
Cloud?
Sorry. I'm gonna go lie down.
Well, that clears that up. He definitely doesn't know who Zack is.
He's starting to. And take note of that. Take note of that. This is something that's interesting. There's a few lines between Tifa and Aerith that we don't get to hear that I'm hoping in part 3 they shine a little light on. Like, watch this particular reaction between these two.
Who Zack is.
Bring it back a
That
little.
up. He definitely doesn't know who Zack is.
She looks over at Cloud, looks to the floor, and then watch. Grabs Aerith, like, by the arms, like she's saying something very serious to her. You know, she is driving a point home. And then when Cloud turns around, the hands are off, the point's been delivered. You know what I'm saying? Interesting.
Another time.
Okay. And then this is going to take us... Things start to go down. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Draw it back.
Gotta be a weapon.
Hey, you hear that?
Yeah, gotta be a weapon.
Wait, do you know something about this?
So again, everything with Cissnei has layers. Everything. Keep that in mind with what's coming.
Could say that. Yeah. You been hearing it for a while?
For a few days now, yeah. The Coalition tried to investigate, but some creatures kept us from getting into the reactor. All they did was fly around. Just the sight of those weird black wisps was enough. More than enough.
Now ain't that something?
You could see them?
So, Cissnei can either see the whispers, or she was planting a seed to see if they can, or both. So, there's a lot of debate over why somebody can see the whispers. We'll find out in part 3 for sure. The conventional understanding is anyone who can see the whispers will play a major impact on the fate of the planet. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. To my understanding, that's the conventional hypothesis. I know there was some talk of like, oh, if you it's anyone who touches Cloud can see them or something like that. But I do think at this point, it's more likely it's if you're going to have a major impact on the planet or on fate itself, you can see those whispers. So again, just like in Remake, right? It was a big deal when we saw that Rufus could see the whispers, because that revealed to us that it's not just Cloud and it's not just the main party, but Rufus can see them too. Now, the question is, how many others can see? Can Sung see them? Didn't seem like he could. Can Cissnei truly see them? Or is this intel from Shinra and she's prodding the party to see what it is they know? And this is one of the things I love about this character so much, because considering we don't even know what her real fucking name is, we have no idea what she's up to. We have no idea. We can make guesses, right? But we have no idea what she's cooking, what her mode, like, anyway, let's keep this going for a minute.
Yeah, of course.
I think she could see them because she knows about Zack's fate, which is key to Cloud, which would make sense, right? Because I suppose Rufus knows. I would assume Sung and the Turks filled him in, but that would also line up with she's Lushu. She is female Lushu for all we know. But yeah, we'll see.
Why? Do you know what they are?
So again, right away, classic deflection. Not a full deflection, but right away turn the question right back on him. Yeah, do you know what they are?
That's something.
You could see them?
Yeah, of course. Why? Do you know what they are?
Whispers.
Well, this just got more interesting.
So, when do we leave?
You, young lady, are on guard duty.
Oh, come on. I just want to help out. Be a part of the team.
Yeah, because you've been a real team player. Keep an eye on her for us.
I'll do my best.
Okay, Steve says, but then Sung should be able to see them. I feel that Sung should be higher than Cissnei in terms of the fate of the planet. Strange. You know, you could debate that. The problem with Sung, I suppose, is that he takes orders, right? He takes orders from Rufus at the end of the day. So whatever Rufus orders him to do, he's going to do. That, in a sense, calls his agency into question a little bit and lumps him a little bit more in with Rude and Reno, as opposed to characters like in our party and characters like Cissnei, who are acting either in leadership roles or with their own independent agency, right? There's not a hierarchy from on high whose orders they answer to, in a sense. Obviously, Cissnei still has intel from Shinra and interfacing with them, but she's clearly running her own operation in Gongaga as well. But at the end of the day, we will find out. No agency? I wouldn't, maybe no agency's being a little hyperbolic with it, but I more so mean in the sense that, like I said, he takes orders from Sung, whereas Cloud and the party aren't really taking orders from anyone on high. Hell, part of Zack's whole character arc was he stopped taking those orders from on high. So I think there may be something within that, a certain level of willpower a character might have. Can everyone see them? I don't think everyone can see them. Remake at least showed us that not everyone could see them. Remake would make it obvious. Even before Yuffie could see them, the whispers, in theory, would push her away from certain things in Intergrade. So no, I don't think everyone can see them. But let's keep this going.
Let's just get in, take a look, and get out.
Now it says here that other villagers saw them too, right? All right, let's dial that back. So when Cissnei first arrived and explained that. Because I kind of see what you're getting at, but I don't think she explicitly said.
Wait, do you know something about this?
Could say that, yeah. You been hearing it for a while?
For a few days now, yeah. The Coalition tried to investigate, but some creatures kept us from getting into the reactor. All they did was fly around. Just the sight of those weird black wisps was enough.
Okay, so here's the thing about Cissnei, right? So she mentions the Coalition tried to get in, but the Whispers kept them out. and that she could clearly see these whispers. What she's not explicitly stating is that she was the only one who could see them. She didn't explicitly state that. So I suppose, as you're pointing out, Steed, that does leave us in a tough spot where she's not explicitly telling us, did her other members see it too? Did she only see it? But like I said, Cissnei, in my opinion, knows a lot more than she lets on, and that in a sense, she's almost playing dumb to get the party to speak.
More than enough.
Now ain't that something?
You could see them?
Yeah, of course. Why? Do you know what they are?
Whispers.
Well, this just got more interesting.
So, when do we leave?
You young lady.
Okay, let's move it up a little bit. Journey to the reactor. I think there's a important line or two said here, so let's dial it back.
Arbiter of fate. They appear when destiny is about to be altered and ensure it maintains its intended course.
I thought we already changed it, though.
We did, once. But perhaps now they preside over a new fate.
I know that was low. The audio for that was low. But sort of what they were discussing, Red was again explaining what the Whispers are. They're arbiters of fate, defending the sequence of events. Barrett points out, hey, didn't we defeat them? And then Red explicitly states, yes, and now they're guarding a new fate. And this is why you have Lifestream Black, Lifestream White from On the Way to a Smile. You have the Black Whispers and the White Whispers. The Black Whispers are protecting Sephiroth and Genova's outcome. The White Whispers are protecting the planet and Aerith's outcome. Keep that in mind.
Ours.
And that's what you get for being curious.
It doesn't make sense. How does Cissnei know about the Whispers?
Okay, so they're you see that? Like they're spelling it out to you that that's supposed to be a mystery. It makes no sense. How could Cissnei see the Whispers? And Steve, to go up what we were talking before, you notice Red didn't say, how could Cissnei and her youth coalition see the Whispers? They kept it pretty isolated to her.
Only we should be able to see them.
True. Could be a setup.
You think?
We'll see.
So you see, he says only we should be able to see them. And then Cloud says maybe it's a setup. You know what I'm saying? Like she didn't actually see the Whispers, but she knew by explaining to them what the Whispers are, she could get them to go and investigate. She could bait them. You know what I'm saying? By the way, how beautiful was that landscape?
Damn. Nature came back swinging.
That's the Mako-rich land. What's good for life is great for reactors.
What's good for life is great for reactors. So what they're showing you here, you see how it's already, the reactor only went out 3 years ago, right? The reactor only was taken out 3 years ago. And already, the planet is already resurging over the reactor.
See your way in?
Almost like what happens at the end of OG with Midgar. Here we go, check this out.
Whispers. Though not as we
Talking
know
about
them.
this earlier, the veils are slipping. So again, this was not in Remake. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. But this little purple core within the Whispers was not in Remake. So what it's showing you is like this is not just a Whisper, it's a Sephi Whisper. Because again, Fate got, just like everything else in this game that's been split in two, Shinra split in two, Cloud's Mind split in two, the live stream as well, and Fate split in two. And there's two Fates that are being defended simultaneously. The Black Whispers representing the corruption, defending the fate that Sephiroth and Jenova want, and the White Whispers representing the fate that the planet and Aerith want. It's black and there are swarms of them flying around, but it's kind of creepy. It gives me the creeps. Swarms, you say, did you see them? I saw them. I saw them. So what about it? Interesting. So the Japanese script, she's insisting that she saw them. And again, okay, so that helps, Steed. I appreciate you looking that up for us. That helps because that shows that like the dialogue is pretty explicit that it's about Cissnei being able to see them. Now, again, to the party, they're like, we should only be able to see them. But the good news is we're not the party. We saw at the end of Remake that Rufus can see them too. So it's not just the main party that can see the Whispers. I really think the a certain side of the Shinra Civil War might be able to put it bluntly. But maybe it's her connections to Zack. But then again, Rufus and Zack never really had a strong connection. So how could that have to do with the Whispers? This is why I believe in that conventional understanding that if you can see the Whispers, it means you will have an impactful role to play on the fate of the planet. Okay. There's also the weird white Whispers with the orb later on. Yeah, so what that represents to me is the planet and Aerith and that side, right? That which they're aiming to preserve. Like, the Whispers used to literally just represent the life stream and fate and the sequence of events that would take place. Remake severed it into two. And that's what these two are representing in a sense.
How you figure?
Right? Clearly the purple lighting motif.
It's time.
Let's follow him. Come on.
Okay, let's see. Can we... Yeah, we can move over Scarlet. We love Scarlet in this house, but we can move
More of those things. What a surprise.
So again, you see direct correlation between these Whispers and Sephiroth. It's Lifestream Black from On the Way to a Spot. Very clear.
Well, I didn't see how, unless we all sprout wings. Oh, raise the water level.
See.
Look for a control terminal.
Skip over a good portion of this.
Evacuate flooded areas.
We gotta help them. Hurry and get ready.
Right, yeah.
Then meet me at the stables.
Nothing too important in that scene.
Take the chocobos.
So first of all, gotta give it to Cissnei. Always got the chocobos.
Oh, look at these cuties. And just in case. Good idea. Thanks. It's a total mess inside the reactor. He should help you get around.
Another very important distinction. Only Cloud sees Sephiroth here. The others only see the Whispers. Correct.
You need to be careful. Don't ask me why, but my gut is telling me that something big is about to go down.
Okay, don't ask me why, but my gut's telling me something big is supposed to go down. Like, the idea here is Cissnei knows shit. She knows a lot, right? That's, at this point, they're beating us over
And
the
more
head,
often than
right?
not, it's right. Don't worry. Whatever it is, we can handle it.
Okay, I do love the mushroom jumps, but we can move this up a little bit. Perfect. Right here. Okay, now again, we're going to pivot away from Cissnei. There's still plenty more Cissnei for us to discuss from this episode, so don't you worry. Like I said, this is going to be a long one, guys. I think today's episode's going over 2 hours. So we're going to come back to Cissnei, but now we're pivoting over to essentially Cloud and Tifa, right? We went through Zack, Aerith, Gongaga, Cissnei, Zack's parents, the themes, Gongaga being a representation of those themes, you know, Gongaga being a manifestation, you know, of a sense, not just the planet's will, but of Zack's hero mythos. So now we're pivoting towards the reactor and Tifa. Now, let me say this. The game is called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? And there's a number of symbolic rebirths we can talk about. But what I am astounded by, rather, and shocked, is that there hasn't been much talk of the symbolic rebirth that Tifa goes through during this sequence, right? We don't really see a rebirth of Cloud in FF7 Rebirth, but we do see a rebirthing of Tifa, in a sense. A symbolic death and rebirth coming for her.
Hey, it's that hag!
I'm just looking for any logical way to figure out why she is so important. You know, it's like I was talking, Steed, earlier in the episode, I was talking about how one of the themes of FF7 is there's a schism everywhere. There's a civil war going on everywhere in a sense. There's a civil war within Cloud going on. There's a civil war within the live stream going on. There's a civil war within Shinra going on. The old guard, which is why we're seeing Scarlet here, right? Think about that. We know Cissnei has intel from Shinra, yet her sharing that intel with the party flies in the face of Scarlet's goals, right? Scarlet represents that old guard at Shinra, the Heideggers, the Hojos, the President Shinra. I mentioned Heidegger. And then you have this new guard, now that Rufus is president, with Sung and Reeve, right, who are sort of working against the old guard, going against what the old guard wanted. Not that Rufus doesn't have his own selfish ambitions, right? Things are more complicated than that. It's not as simple as black and white like in the live stream, but at least within Shinra, there is this civil war between old guard and new. And it would appear to me that Cissnei is clearly, we saw it earlier in the chapter, she's clearly communicating with Reeve. Reeve is clearly communicating with the Turks. So you have Rufus, the Turks, Reeve, Cissnei. They represent Shinra's new guard that's going against the old guard of Scarlet, Heidegger, Hojo, Palmer. And what you're seeing is a clash. Because again, here's Scarlet supposedly serving Shinra's agenda, but then here's Cissnei rallying the party to work against that agenda. So when you're asking why she's so important, why this is happening, it's not just her strong connection to Zack, it's her strong connection to the Turks and Shinra.
Tifa!
You all right?
Well, 3 of us are!
Cloud! There's no escape. Who did that? Hey, Scarlet! Remember this Wutaian savage? She's coming for your wrinkly hide!
Why not take us on? We'll go easy on you. Promise.
Just a great shot. Just want to point that out. Just a great shot. You gotta love it.
My sweet child. Mocking a person's physical appearance is tacky and beneath me. Instead, I'll simply carve you all into pieces bit by bit.
Can I need to try, I'm sorry guys, you'll have to indulge me just for a second. I need to try and get this freeze frame. Please indulge me, okay? I'll turn the sound off. There's a freeze frame I really want to get. Isn't that the meme? Isn't that the meme? Like the anime face? Like, you know what I mean? You can tell me I'm crazy. If I'm crazy, I'm crazy. But like that looks like the anime face meme. You know what I'm talking about? The like down angle fucking thing. You know what I'm saying? My God. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. All right, let's get back to it. No material. Oh God! All right, let's skip ahead a little bit. Oh wow, we made it.
Worthless hunk of... Oh, it's gorgeous. And about to be all mine.
Get back here!
I don't think so.
Eric! Yuffie! You okay? We're fine! Just go! Don't let that hag get her grubby mitts on my materia!
So, the weapon here is a very interesting thing. Okay, right? So we talked about earlier how, Gongaga, they got it all right in terms of what their approach is. You can disagree with the devs' approach to this trilogy, but when you take their approach into consideration, Gongaga is everything they're aiming to do. Now, part of what's going on here is everything we're witnessing here did not happen in the original. However, it's not padding and it's not wasted breath because there's a lot transpiring here. And as we pointed out earlier in the episode, leading up to this, that plays not only into the narrative themes, but into the narrative itself. So keep that in mind that everything we're seeing here is new, particularly with the weapon.
Manners.
Tifa!
Lie like the neck you are!
Okay, something else to keep in mind too. We talked about how throughout this chapter, because going back to Gongaga forces Cloud to, in a sense, confront his memories of Zack and the mental block he has, that because more work is required to maintain his delusions, the walls and the veil is thinning, allowing Sephiroth to have more influence. Now, you guys know me. I'm a theory bro. And one of the things I mentioned that this trilogy was going to do differently was that Sephiroth was also going to target Tifa. Not just Aerith, but would also target Tifa. He would not target Tifa in the same way he does Aerith, because they both mean something very different to Cloud. But Sephiroth's goal is to break Cloud. And there are many different approaches that he can take. He doesn't have to just kill Aerith. But it seems very obvious to me that what Jenova was trying to do and what Sephiroth was trying to do was to make Cloud guilty of the murder himself. It was already going to break Cloud to confront the death of his mother, right? It was already going to break Cloud to watch Aerith die. But to take this guilt to the next level, right? Because remember, look at Advent Children. Cloud eventually heals. Cloud eventually gets over his guilt, because his guilt is not that he killed someone, right? You don't get to take that back. His guilt is that he feels responsible for having lost somebody. So, what it's very obvious to me, what Sephiroth and Jenova were trying to do was to put the blood on Cloud's hands. And that if they couldn't, they would do it themselves as a last resort. But it seems very obvious to me, right here, there was an effort to manipulate Cloud to get him to kill one of his loved ones. Because if Sephiroth burns Nibelheim and Sephiroth kills Aerith, those are things that Cloud can get over and get past eventually. But if you can make Cloud be the one to do it, there's no going back. So I always said Sephiroth's going to particularly target Tifa, because the truth is killing Aerith was never enough, right? If Tifa is still there to rebuild Cloud, right? If Tifa is still there to rebuild him and be there for him, that will also foil the plans. So this all, I'll quit yapping. I've made my point. Let's get on with it. Yo, what's up, Zero? Good to see you, man.
Let that righteous anger guide you.
And you see, he takes on Sephiroth's stance, right? And you see, I want to actually draw that back a little bit, actually. Like, that is a Sephiroth look. Cloudaroth. You're picking up what I'm putting down, Steve. He's enjoying this. for it.
Cloud! Stop! That's enough!
Tifa's voice was able to reach him. This is what it's showing you too, is that like he was clearly in a trance, right? But Tifa's voice alone was enough to snap him out of it. And now here you have Devil on the shoulder,
okay.
Angel on the other.
They're gone.
Cloud, don't let her fool you. She has no scar.
You have no scar.
Because you gotta, here's the thing. You gotta understand what Tifa is to Cloud and what Cloud is to Tifa. Tifa and Cloud, because a big part of FF7 is identity, right? One's identity is a major part of FF7. And when it comes to Cloud and Tifa, the two of them are all they have left of who they were when they were young. Who they were before Nibelheim burned, right? They don't have anybody left. There's no friends left. Oh, my phone just died. There's no friends left. There's no family left. Zangon, like, it's all... They're all each other have left. So if Cloud loses Tifa, there's nobody left who knows the real Cloud. You know what I'm saying? And if Tifa loses Cloud, there's nobody Tifa has left from her childhood, from her young life. Which is why the two of them not only cling to each other so strongly, but it's why Sephiroth needs to drive a wedge between Cloud and Tifa. Because if you can drive that wedge, then there's nothing holding the real Cloud together anymore. Because say what you will, Barret and Yuffie and Aerith and Nanaki, none of them knew who Cloud was before Shinra, before Sephiroth, before Hojo. Except for Tifa. So if you remove Tifa, in a sense, the old Cloud is gone, giving Jenova and Sephiroth exactly what they want.
She's not
You're not Tifa. You can't be.
Let's pause right here. We got a $20 freaking super chat from Josh Z. My man says, it really bugs me that people criticize Tifa's lack of reaction to Cloud attacking her. 1, the whole point is that she knows it's not him. And 2, you don't pull a Clea and verbally abuse someone struggling with guilt already. Love the Expedition 33 reference, Josh. You're the fucking man. But, dude, you know, and it's not even so much the whole point is she knows it's not him. The whole point is she knows what's going on with him. That there are these influences, whether it be Sephiroth, Jenova, Shinra, that there are these influences pulling at Cloud's strings. She knows he's susceptible to this sort of stuff. So that's where I'm with you too, Josh, is I can understand as a knee-jerk kind of being like, you're really not going to bring that up or say anything? But at the same time, Tifa, like you're saying, Tifa is aware of what's happening to Cloud. Tifa, they'll talk about it in a scene after this, but you get my point. But dude, Josh, thank you for those $20, my man. We love you. We appreciate you. You let us know any other opinions you got, man.
We've been over this. I do have a scar. I showed you, remember?
Liar.
You see? Look at that.
All right, look.
And you see, this is the thing, right? Is him seeing that, it disrupts his delusion. That's why he's kind of panicking in a sense. And she also, we'll get to that, Steed.
Those we hate, those we love, those we fear. Jenova would become anyone to fool her prey.
Don't do this!
But I'm no fool.
even went for the spot where the scar is. You know? He didn't just mimic Sephiroth in behavior, he also aimed for the same target. Let me move this ahead a little bit. Let's skip over to when she's swimming over. Perfect. Take it. Now, in fiction, and honestly, the original FF7 remake actually referenced this. In fiction, there is something called the belly of the whale. Now, picture a character arc like a circle. Okay, a character's story works like a circle. At the bottom of that circle, the bottom pit, that's known as the belly of the whale. Now, this is not only the toughest point or the darkest point of the hero's journey, but it is the point where they, in a sense, die and are reborn. Right now, as far as Rebirth is concerned, this is Tifa's belly of the whale. And yes, it is quite literal, isn't it?
Tifa?
All right, look!
Into the Bob West she goes.
Tifa!
You know, I will say that there are less appetizing looking things in this world than Mako energy. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
Tifa.
So, death and rebirth, right? That's really what's happening here with Tifa, which, you know, I'm someone who absolutely loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. One of my major criticisms of FF7 Remake was that Tifa did not have a complete character arc. Not that she wasn't a good character, right? Not that she wasn't well written, excuse me, but she didn't have a complete character arc in the way Cloud did, in the way Aerith did. However, that can't be said for Rebirth. This scene, what we're witnessing here, is not only, how do I put this? It's not only beautiful, it will be very revealing.
Pumpkin.
Mom? Dad?
Tifa! Over here!
So again, it's the childhood memories that are recurring. And the reason why this is happening to her is, like I said earlier, is this is the part of herself she's scared of losing, right? They go back to Nibelheim. Nothing is as it was. Everyone living there is new. Things like that. Her parents are gone. The town is gone. She's in danger of losing Cloud. The reason why she's in a sense brought here is because what we're seeing in Tifa's own reflection is the part of herself that she's scared of losing.
Come on! This way! Yeah! Come play with us!
And like I said, like she's literally curled up like she's in the womb. This is very on the nose, this sort of death and rebirth cycle she's going through.
A weapon?
Weapons in this game look so much like Sin, it's crazy. Well, I mean, the far plane is the live stream, right? So here we go. White Whispers. Like I was explaining earlier. Wait till I get a good shot of them over here. And then there's the Black Whispers. So again, the Black Whispers represent Sephiroth, Jenova, the White Whispers, the planet, Aerith, etc. Black Whispers are trying to stop what's happening here. The White Whispers are trying to protect what's happening here. How far into the chapter? Okay. We're making good time. We're making good time. So again, you're seeing these White Whispers surrounding the weapon. And this is why I'm excited to see what their plans are for the weapons in Part 3. Because they are, for the most part, optional in the original, for the most part. I'm very interested to see what it is they're going to do this time. Because all of this already is pretty known. See, the Black Whispers are trying to block them from getting there. And they're deliberately going to show them fighting. This is what I'm talking about. There's a civil war everywhere in FF7. There's a schism everywhere in FF7. Even in Wutai, you know, we brought up other places, but consider Wutai. That's what Yuffie represents.
Are the Whispers fighting?
Yeah, it's, again, one of the things. They're beating you on the head with it.
Where are we? The live stream?
This is the live stream. Move this back just a little. And you know, we don't have to get the exact dialogue here. But this is where essentially she's going to relive a lot of childhood memories. And perhaps the most important one, this is sort of a replay. Nothing we don't know about. Let me skip ahead. Right, here's one we do know about. Sort of paints Cloud as the outcast of the village. But this is the important one. And there's even a point, I skipped over it, but there's even a point during that sequence where Tifa asks, am I dying? Like, is that what this is? Am I dying and just reliving my memories? Again, the death and rebirth motif, right on the nose. So, again, I don't have to play the dialogue here. This is probably the most important sequence of this livestream scene, is what it's revealing to us and to Tifa is that when Tifa fell off the mountain, it wasn't Cloud's fault. What the boys like Emilio told the village when they came back was that it was Cloud's fault. But what this memory is revealing to Tifa is that Cloud was the one trying to stop her. Okay? All these years, Cloud was blamed for it like it was his fault. But what Tifa's seeing now is no, Cloud was the one looking out for her. Cloud was the one who went the extra mile to say, Tifa, don't. So, another, and this is what I mean about Gongaga and this whole sequence being so perfect for what the trilogy is aiming to do, is that right there is one of the major themes being thrown in our face once again. The truth versus the lies, right? In order for Sephiroth and Jenova to win, they need Cloud and the party to believe lies. But in order for the party to win, they need to learn the truth. It really is as simple as that when it comes to the story of FF7. The difference between whether or not Cloud and the party win or not is if they learn the truth. Particularly, more so Cloud and Tifa. Every character has their own truth they need to learn. But particularly with Cloud and Tifa, that's the difference in fate. If Cloud and Tifa can learn the truth, the planet will be saved. If Sephiroth and Jenova can convince them of lies, they will win. There's so many things this all comes down to, but it really does come down to fact, fiction, truth, lies, and memories. And that's why memory is such a big theme in FF7, because our memories can lie to us, believe it or not. The moment is one of my favorite in the game. The whole Gongaga chapter is probably my favorite. And like, we still have a lot of cool stuff to touch on. And again, you're seeing this live stream civil war. And that because it's happening here, it's manifesting all over. Now here we go. Here comes a juicy part. Here comes a juicy part. Emerging from the Black Whispers. Sephiroth.
Sephiroth?
So it's very clear that what's happening here, right? What's happening here is getting in the way. Otherwise, Sephiroth and the Black Whispers would not be present for this moment. But what Sephiroth needs is he cannot have Tifa learn the truth. He can't see any more truth. He has to put a stop to this immediately. And this is the part I find peculiar, all right? Right? So he's going to slice into the weapon, right? He's going to slice through the weapon. And out flies a bunch of whispers. White whispers. So, On the Way to a Smile lets us in on a little bit between Lifestream White, Lifestream Black. But what I'm starting to wonder, when it comes to the weapons, right? They're swimming around the Lifestream. In a sense, got this giant materia belly. I'm wondering if what we're seeing here is white, not just Lifestream White, Lifestream Black, but this will all play into the white materia and the black materia. And that the reason why the white materia might be hollow at the end of Rebirth is because they expended all their resources just to maintain fate as is. But by the end of Rebirth, the white materia has been hollowed out and the black materia is like glowing. It's thriving. So with Sephiroth slicing open this weapon, and they are in the Lifestream, and seeing a bunch of white whispers fall out, it makes me wonder if the weapons are made of white materia or have something to do with the white materia. There's something going on here that needs to be explained, and I'm not going to propose that I have the answers for it, but there's clearly something that happened here that needs explaining.
Stay strong, Tifa.
And now comes her rebirth, right?
You'll make it. But not if you give up. You have to want it. Fight for it. Hard as you can.
You need to get up now, Tifa. You can't die here.
So, for those who haven't read Traces of Two Pasts, this is in a sense a reference to that book. That's why this doctor's appearance did confuse some people, but if you read Nojima's novels, you'd know why she's seeing him. Because the last time Tifa had a death and rebirth experience was the Nibelheim sequence, and in a sense, this was the doctor that helped bring her back from the dead. She was never really dead, but you see my point. This was the doctor that healed her up and got her back on her feet. So the last time she had a death and rebirth type experience, this doctor was there.
Too many still depend on you.
Tifa!
Come back to us, Tifa. We've got a fight to finish.
It's possible Sephiroth weakened the white materia from that attack. Yeah, I think that's possible, because we also need an explanation for why the white materia went hollow. But we'll see. Bugs when you lift the rock.
Cloud!
So this is like her final vision, right? This is her final vision before waking back up, right? Zongan was there, the doctor was there, Barrett was there, Aerith was there. But Cloud, the person that she actually needs most, is drifting away.
Your words can't reach him now.
No! Don't take him too!
And again, don't take him too. This is, again, the very revealing thing about Tifa in this chapter. Like I keep saying, her childhood memories, who she was before the Nibelheim incident, is very important to her. You know, like it would be anybody. You know, the years where you grew up, the town you grew up, right? And when she says, don't take him too, it's because when she sees Sephiroth, right? Even though Shinra's mostly to blame, when she sees Sephiroth, all she can think about is everything that man, and by proxy Shinra, has taken from her. Her hometown, her parents, well, her father, because her mother died more naturally, but her hometown, her father, okay, her friends, her life, and she got thrust into the slums as a result of that, indebted to the doctor that healed her, right? And Cloud is all that's left. So there's like this, this is why like it hurts to hear her say that, because there's this desperate part of her that's like, don't take him too. Like literally all I have left, you know? Let's skip ahead just a little bit. I guess it could be more general childhood stuff, but I figured when she said that, she was just referring to her dad. An interesting aspect about fictional stories and how they can be interpreted, I suppose. Yeah, you could see it isolating as her dad, right? But I think that undersells all that's been taken from her. Like, her whole life was taken from her. It's not like, hey, you took my dad, but I could still live in Nibelheim. I got to keep the house, you know, my friends are still next door, you know, the person across the street, I still have my cat Fluffy. Like, everything was taken from Tifa. Downright everything. Her dad, her hometown, the life she was living, the identity she had, all of it gone. Thrust into the slums to fend for herself. Like, all of it gone. Like, Nibelheim was a cozy life, no matter what way you spin it. Cozy looking town, cozy looking life. You see the house. I mean, look at the house Tifa used to live in, and now the slummy apartment she has in Remake. You know, it's like they took. She even says in Remake, right, when, again, Jessie dies, Biggs dies, Wedge dies. Jessie was like her best friend. Sephiroth and by proxy Shinra took that away from her too. And she even says to Cloud, right, at that scene where they stay at Aerith's house, she even says to Cloud, they took everything from us again, right? Like that's a big part of the pain going on in Tifa's heart, is that it's like she can't control the fact that whether, again, be Sephiroth or by proxy Shinra, they keep taking everything from her. Felix the Cat, long-time subscriber to the channel, says Tifa's plea not to lose Cloud hurts every time I hear that line. Me too, because again, when you think about all she's lost, it's all she has left. It's all she has left. But let's keep this one.
Tifa? Barret!
Coming!
And this is what's interesting too, is like it would appear as though the weapons have an understanding of what's going on and sought to help us. Strangely enough. Smack that boy, Barret!
Get your shit together. Tifa needs you.
Sorry, we're doing that one more time.
Hey, get your shit together. Hey, get your shit together. Hey, get your shit together. Tifa needs.
Guys, let me tell you something. That's the best friend a man could ask for. That's all I'm going to say. That is the best friend a man can ask for.
Hey, get your shit together. Tifa needs you.
That moment will always be hilarious. Get your shit together. Hey, we all need that sometimes, man. So you see this, right? You see this. Like, the white whispers are swelling around the weapon as the weapon is, in a sense, reviving Tifa. You know what I mean? Like, this is a revival. This is not a, I kept her in my stomach and now she's safe, let me spit her out. Like, this is like a revival, you know?
Tifa.
And honestly, any FF14 fans out there, kind of reminds me of Y'shtola's death and rebirth scene as well. In Barrett, we stand.
Tifa!
It's like, this is an interesting shot, right? With the weapon behind him, you know? Okay, we're mostly through the chapter. We're going to pivot back to Cissnei when this video has its run.
Good luck down there.
Hey, Tifa, stay with us.
And again, I would say the primary thing, or one of the primary things Tifa picked up while down there, is that the life stream is at war. That's what she comes back and really tells the party as a result of all this. And that the life stream is really at war. It's why she says good luck down there. You know, because she knows that they're going back into a fight. So to speak. Barrett's hands are massive. Like, seriously, dude. Imagine taking a good smack from that, dude. All right. This next scene is awesome and it's very revealing. We are going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to refill some of my drinks, run to the little FF7 room, and we'll keep this going, okay? So don't go nowhere. We probably got, I'm not going to lie to you guys, we probably got another hour. I'm probably going to go another hour. I've got plenty I want to talk about. It's not often I'll do these big episodes, but if we're going to talk about everything Gongaga is and Cissnei and all that, we need the time. So don't go nowhere. Taking a quick break. Go grab a snack. Go grab some dinner. Do what you got to do. We're going to take like 5 minutes, and we'll come right back, and we'll go through this scene. All right. Be right with you, boys. Unmute myself and let's get back to it. So I saw a little bit of chat going on here. Remake Barrett revived, Rebirth Tifa revived, FF7R Part 3, Cloud revived. Cloud is going to go through the same death and rebirth cycle, the same that he went through in OG. But that's a very good thing to point out there, Velocity Raptor. I also really like that name. Yeah, Barrett was the one with a death and rebirth and remake. Tifa is the one with a death and rebirth and rebirth. Cloud is going to be the one with a death and rebirth in Part 3. All right. Let's get into this scene. This is a really good scene. I'm going to point out why. Let's let it roll.
I'll go get the others.
Cloud? You remember how our parents used to tell us that when a person died, their spirit would cross Mount Nebo?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me pause for a minute. There is something I want to say before these two get into it. There's no bigger threat to Sephiroth and Genova's plans than what's happening here. The two of them sitting down together and recounting memories and figuring out what the truth is the biggest threat to Sephiroth's plan. Not the Buster Sword, right? This. The two of them coming together to figure out the truth is the biggest threat to their plan. Which is why, throughout this entire game, Sephiroth was trying to prevent this conversation and conversations like it from happening.
We all knew it was a story to scare us out of climbing the mountain. You believed it, though.
I didn't. At least...
Also, pay attention to what Tifa says here. Pay close attention to what Tifa says here.
You believed it, though.
I'm gonna put the captions on.
I didn't. At least, I had my suspicions. But I buried them. I wanted it to be true so badly. I didn't want to think my mom was...
Let me go back. Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. Listen to what Tifa's saying and realize that it applies perfectly to Cloud.
I had my suspicions. But I buried them. I wanted it to be true so badly. I didn't want to think my mom was just gone.
So you see, as we've talked about with Cloud, one of the things that he is burying, one of the memories that he's built these walls around, is the death of his own mother and the inability to accept that. Now, there is a degree to which... Let me skip over what I was going to say and just say, now we see the same thing happening with Aerith. Okay? In the sense that she says right here, she had her suspicions, but I buried them. I wanted it to be true so badly.
I didn't want to think my mom was just gone.
I didn't want to think my mom was just gone. This not only applies to how Cloud looks at the death of his own mother, but this also applies to how he's going to look at the death of Aerith, right? That he's going to believe his own delusions and bury his own suspicions in order to convince himself that Aerith isn't gone. So what Tifa is showing here is that what Cloud needs to learn, Tifa has already integrated.
Plus, Emilio and the others said they'd help me find her, so up the mountain we went.
Some help they were. Running off and leaving you out there?
Not that I knew about any of that.
So there you go. Not that I knew about any of that. You see? The truth?
You don't remember?
I hit my head pretty hard when I fell off that cliff. Think it messed with my memory. Everything from around that time's a blur.
So are you starting to see that Cloud and Tifa are a lot more similar than they may have initially realized? In the sense that just like Cloud has this memory trauma, some memory problems, Tifa too is even admitting that like her memories from that fall have kind of been messed with and all her memories from that time are a blur. You know? Emilio, the true villain of FF7. Emilio! Yeah, he's the real villain. Imagine Emilio was Genesis. That would make no sense, but it would be funny. Anyway, what you're seeing here is Cloud and Tifa are a lot more alike than they may have originally realized. Again, both having a memory trauma, struggles with memories of younger days. Tifa really struggled with the death of her own mom. She struggled with the death of her own mom to the point that she believed in delusions and buried her own suspicions. Very similar to what Cloud is doing with Aerith at the end of FF7. So again, you're sort of seeing that these two are a lot more alike than they let on. And all this kind of connects back to Cissnei and how she's dealing with Zack too. We will get to that. Don't you worry, Laurel. Cissnei's going to make a comeback at the end of this episode. Don't worry.
I only knew what the others told me. Didn't even occur to me to question them.
What'd they tell you?
They said that you egged me on. But now I know that's not what happened at all. When the rest of them ran, you were there for me. You stayed when I needed you most. If that's not a hero, then I don't know what is.
Okay, I want to go back to Josh's super chat for a second, right? Josh, big supporter of the show, sent us a $20 super chat that said, it really bugs me when people criticize Tifa's reaction to Cloud attacking her. The whole point is that she knows it is not him. So like you were saying earlier, and we've kind of gone over since that scene, that she's very aware that there's a Sephiroth influence sort of deal happening where Cloud is losing his agency to an external influence connected to Sephiroth. She's very aware of all of that. But the other part that people don't talk about, Josh, is that in that live stream sequence, she realized that Cloud was always looking out for her, even when they were young. That the real Cloud, the Cloud she knows, will stand by her and chase after her when everybody else has turned tail and ran. So she goes to that live stream sequence, and again, in a world where her memories from that time are very fuzzy, right? Her memories are very fuzzy from that time. And she gets deliberately shown, right? By the weapon, by the white whispers, that Cloud was always there for you. He didn't just promise you on the watchtower, water tower, saying, hey, I'll be that hero who will come and save you. He innately has always kind of been that guy. The real Cloud, not the one who has to pretend to be a badass that was soldier first class. Just that dorky kid with the ponytail was always looking out for her. And when the rest of the village kids turned and ran, Cloud stayed to try and help. So that's something that I feel doesn't get looked at enough too. Keep it rolling.
I'm no hero. What kind of hero falls off a cliff with the person he's trying to save and pushes him into a pool of Mako?
And that too, you also see that like it's not like Cloud isn't taking accountability for it. That's the other thing. It's not like the dude's doesn't feel guilty about what happened.
Sometimes I don't even know who I am. I forget things everyone else remembers just fine, and know things I've got no right knowing. It's like there's different people inside of me.
And now, very Kingdom Hearts-esque, but sort of the idea here is that I've seen some people say like, oh, that means Zack, oh, that means Sephiroth. That means both. It's not just Cloud, right? There's Zack in there. There's Sephiroth in there. Zack more memorial in terms of memory. With Sephiroth, it's literally like the S cells. But it's sort of the idea that Cloud is like juggling, himself, his true authentic self, Zack's legacy, and what Zack taught him, and then Sephiroth,
And the worst part is, I can't even tell where they end and I begin.
Go on.
And that's why we I didn't play this earlier, but when they arrive at Gongaga, right? And again, this is what I'm saying about Gongaga being so perfect. When they arrive at Gongaga, Cloud says, I feel like I've been here before. I feel like I've been here before. Even though Cloud has never been to Gongaga. But he has this feeling like he's been there before. That's the Zack in him. You know what I'm saying? That's the Zack in him. So when he's standing here and saying, like, I don't know where these people end and where I begin, he's coming off a chapter where when he arrives at Gongaga, it feels familiar, even though he hasn't been there. And when he went to the reactor, there was so much Mako energy, he was just acting like Sephiroth. So in a sense, these two competing personas going on within him have manifested here in Gongaga in two different ways, which is why the veil is thinning, the perceptions are crumbling, and he's saying, I don't know where they end and I begin. Because not something about, we know why, but by the nature of Gongaga, this internal conflict within Cloud it's like Mentos in a Coke bottle. It's bubbling up, man.
Soldier cells degrade. I think that's what's happening to me. That I'm falling apart.
That's not going to happen to you.
This, and I keep saying it. Because it is important. I know it can be a little bit cheesy, but hey, who doesn't like cheese on their burger? You don't like cheese on your burger? Get the fuck out of this podcast. Anyway, this right here is the biggest threat. This is the biggest threat to Sephiroth and Genova. Not the Buster Sword. This.
You saved me before. Now it's my turn. Aw, worried about little old me?
Aye, that's right. Worried.
Come on. Sorry.
What? Now, this is another example, right? Where Tifa and Aerith in Rebirth, a lot is happening off screen between the two. A lot is taking place that we're not allowed to be in on. This is another point that I hope, just like we talked about earlier, where Tifa grabs Aerith by the arms to like tell her something, but we don't get to hear it. This is another point where pretty deliberately we see Aerith speak, but we don't get to hear. I genuinely hope we get to hear it in part 3. And like, you see how like she kind of goes and sits down relatively solemnly, you know? But also, I do want to say, I also absolutely love that we've reached a point that video game characters can have little micro expressions like what Tifa's about to do. Cloud buddy, you're in. If you don't know what that look means. Okay. If I'm not mistaken.
So basically, we got some nasty looking black whispers going up against the planet in the life stream. And these whispers are with Sephiroth, right?
Yeah. At least, that's how it looked to me while I was in there.
Oh, yo, heads up. KH Guides is in the chat. What's up, dude? Says legit best part of Rebirth for me. Checks all the boxes. Yeah. You know, we've been going over that the last couple hours, how when you guys are going to kill me for saying this for the 4th time. But when you consider what the devs' objectives is with this trilogy, Gongaga is an example of, like you're saying, them checking all those boxes. 100%.
And? Any idea who was winning? Could you tell?
So about who's winning within the life
The
stream.
planet. The life stream. Us.
So what Tifa comes back to report is, as of right now, the planet is still winning within the life stream. Right? Which is also symbolic of the fact Cloud is still himself. Everything is stable right now. But I'd be willing to bet that at the end of Rebirth, the planet is no longer winning that civil war within the life stream.
Well, of course we are.
Also, like I was saying, about to say it right now, one of the things I love about this chapter is it further reinforces one of my favorite dynamics in FF7, that Cloud might be the main character, but Barrett is the leader. And I think that makes him such a special character. So we're going to let him do his thing real quick.
What did you expect? This is the planet we're talking about. Y'all know she's gonna pour her heart and soul into this fight. Just close your eyes and listen. Tell me you can't hear that. Her rallying cry. She knows Sephiroth ain't going down easy, and that she needs others to step up. But we're the only ones who can, don't you see? We need to commit, put our lives on the line.
That's what it is. I think I got it. I think I got it. The rallying cry. That's the whispers. Tell me you can't hear that. Her rallying cry. I'm starting to think that if you are like the party or like Cissnei and you can see the whispers, that's the planet's rallying cry. Because right after Barrett says that rallying cry line, he goes on to say, we're the only ones who can do it. Take note. And not only that, once he brings this concept up, Cissnei walks through the damn door.
Just close your eyes and listen. Tell me you can't hear that. Her rallying cry. She knows Sephiroth ain't going down easy, and that she needs others to step up. But
she needs others to step up.
We're the only ones who can, don't you see? We need to commit, put our lives on the line to save hers. You in?
Yeah, you bet we are. Huh? Wow, what have I walked in on? You know, there are places better suited to these kinds of conversations.
Like Cosmo Canyon.
The home of planetology. It's right around the corner, isn't it?
And do they have materia there? Because if they do, okay. I am in, like all in!
Since time immemorial, it has been a place for both planetary energies and ancient wisdom.
Give me a second. We're just gonna move up just a little bit. Yep, grew up there, pilgrimage. And this is where Cissnei, this is the other thing. This is the other thing with Cissnei. This is why I keep drawing attention to her. Especially when it comes to this trilogy. She's the one who links them up with Cid. Okay? Now, little something about Cid. If you read Traces of Two Pasts, that's where you learn that he had a relationship, not a romantic one, but he had a relationship with Aerith's mother, and that's shown in Traces of Two Pasts, and that's why he recognizes her and wants to help when they meet up. Now, here we have Cissnei, who's in a sense catalyzing this meetup.
A free flyer pilot works out of an old airstrip nearby. He can take you part of the way. Use the south gate and follow the trail. You can't miss it. And I should...
Fango?
This here's Fango.
Fango,
He's taken quite a liking to you. Sure, he'd be more than happy to give you guys a lift.
Thanks, Cissnei, for everything.
You know,
The pleasure was all mine. And if you need anything else, just ask around the village.
Cid didn't know a Falna in OG FF7, right? I don't recall that detail. Correct. Correct. That is something new.
Probably take a look at the town notice board. See if there are any jobs for us. Always fancied trying my hand as a merc.
Okay, so this is when they get into side quests. Okay, we don't got to cover the chicken one. There's the Teach Me Great Warrior. This is a good one. And then leaving Gongaga, which we'll end on. I think before we do this section, because this is important. No, you know what? We'll do this one. We'll do this one. And then we're going to do the 3 questions you can ask Cissnei. And then we'll get back on the Cissnei train.
Oh, so you heard about all that? Well, I don't want to brag or anything, but we crushed him.
Really? You have to teach me how you did.
So again, this is where they ask them to train. So this guy was Zack's friend growing up. And let me move us along. Let's see. This is the part I wanted to get to. So, like I keep saying, part of Zack's legacy is that everybody that he was close to, everybody that he had a genuine connection with, felt inspired by him and wanted to live out the path of the hero. Whether we're talking about Cloud, whether we're talking about Aerith, whether we're talking about I can't remember this guy's name, but he's going to be another example of it. Whether we're talking about Cissnei, again, these people that he forms these close relationships with, whether we're talking about Kunsel, all coming back now, they all feel inspired and want to live out this path of the hero. What we see here, let me put this on mute, is another example of that. we have two characters who are, in a sense, trying to live out Zack's legacy. One, quite deliberately and knowingly. Another one, not so deliberately, perhaps subconsciously. But this is a great moment where Cloud is learning to embody the hero.
Not straight.
Yeah, Zack told me the same thing. He used to train here all the time. Called it his secret gym. Of course, it wasn't much of a secret since everyone knew about it. But it sounded cool. Hard to live up to the legacy of a guy like that.
And again, how on the nose can you be? Hard to live up to the legacy of a guy like that. Yet that's what everyone's doing. That's what Cissnei's doing. That's what he's doing. That's what Aerith is doing. That's what Cloud is doing. That's what Kunsel is doing. That is the legacy of Zack Fair.
Check this out. It was his favorite exercise. For strength, of body, and mind. Start. By training, you're behind.
Not like that. Gotta go deeper. Bend your knees more. Engage your glutes and your quads.
So Lauro, earlier in the episode, when Cloud met Zack's parents, that's when the headache stopped. And then we've talked about the veil thinning. That's a big part of Gongaga. When Zack's mom first says Zack Fair, when she says Zack, he's fine. But when she said Fair, the blip came in and you couldn't hear her say Fair. You heard Zack, but not Zack Fair. So since that moment, Cloud can hear the name Zack, but if he hears Zack Fair, that triggers him.
Got it.
And again, I don't know if you guys know this, but Zack's last name is meant to be like a mirror opposite of Cloud's first name. So Cloud and Fair, when skies are fair, that typically means they're clear. And then, you know, you have Cloud. So just thought I'd point that out.
Wherever he is, I hope he's doing good.
You cramping up?
Mayday! SOS!
Okay, when they fight these monsters, we can skip ahead of that. There we go. Right here should be good.
We actually won? Wow. All that training really paid off. Wait a sec. That's it! I've got an idea. See you back at the village. Ah!
Hello? What about my materia?
Just move ahead a little bit. There we go.
I'd like to ask you to train all of us in the art of combat.
Okay. They asked them to train them. Fun little interaction there. But let's move on up. Perfect, right here.
If you're looking for someone to train you, then look no further. No money or materia required.
Well, thanks, Cissnei. That'd be great.
But what about them? They're veterans of the battlefield, and under their tutelage.
What? My tutelage not good enough? In case you've forgotten, I've seen my fair share of action. If all of you are serious about upping your game, I'll help you out. In fact, I've been meaning to offer for a while now. Seeing as we're here, well...
Sounds good to me.
Me too.
Well,
yeah, I was gonna say, they don't know you were a Turk,
idea.
Cissnei.
Sorry I wasn't able to convince the rest of them. It's just, I felt something when we first met. Almost like fate.
Almost like fate. Gee.
It's just, I felt something when we first met. Almost like fate. And I guess I got a little carried away.
Don't sweat it.
These NPCs
Then
did
that
not play
settles it.
before Crisis.
Listen up. There's no backing out now, so be warned. I won't go easy.
Roger.
Very Zack of her. Right? Very Zack of her.
Cloud, Yuffie! I know you've got to make a living and all, but you might want to consider lowering your rates.
I'll consider it after you consider paying me! Where's my materia?
And again, like I mentioned, I do love that in Gongaga all the houses are shaped like mushrooms. Okay, give me a second, gang. We're going to switch up the clip a little bit for now. Of course, the scene where they bump into Sid is fun, but there was one scene I definitely wanted to discuss.
I'll be fine.
Now that we're back on the Cissnei wave, let's make sure that's good. All right, let's pull this up. Also kind of acorn-shaped. Probably more acorn-shaped than mushroom-shaped now that I think about it.
Hey there. Heading out? On patrol. Got a slightly troubling report.
But not troubling enough to let us go with her.
I'm captain. It just makes sense for me to go.
Yeah, but not by yourself.
I love
We're talking
Rebirth,
in
but there's too
circles.
much gang low poly
If I may.
basics. And you know, for a PS4 game, that can pass, but for a PS5 game, I hope they do a little better next time.
As you can tell by looking at him, Cloud here has a lot of experience taking care of trouble. So, why don't you send him on patrol instead?
Don't worry, I'll go. Give you time to talk things over.
Perfect. Let's skip ahead just a bit. Video is loud. Gotcha. Let's turn that down. So it won't be too loud this time. Okay. Let's take it from here.
That's some fine work.
Huh? When did you get here?
Been following you for a while, but I'm sure Cloud already knew that.
So, like I mentioned earlier, one of the things I did appreciate about this chapter was when they first arrived, right? They first arrive, Cissnei recognizes Cloud. Cloud doesn't recognize Cissnei, but recognizes that Cissnei recognizes him. Then Cissnei and Cait Sith have this little, like, secret interaction, like, shh. But the whole time, Cloud knows who Cissnei is, in the sense that, like, he knows that she knows things. He knows that she knows who he is. And just like on this side quest, he knew that she was tailing them the whole time. Let's keep this going.
Yeah, well...
View from the Outlook was pretty nice, huh? I like to relax there. Plus, it's easy to spot people coming our way well in advance.
Wait, are you expecting someone?
Now, fun little fact. Watch Aerith's reactions to what Cissnei has to say.
I've got a lot of questions I've been needing to ask you, you know.
That's so. Fine. But I don't have all day. You get one question, and one question only.
We'll go over each one.
As silly as it sounds.
Now watch Aerith's reactions. I'm going to pull it back, but watch Aerith's reactions.
As silly as it sounds. Someone who isn't with us anymore. But he doesn't feel gone. It's like I wouldn't be surprised if I woke up one day and saw him outside our gates. He's not an ex or anything like that. I don't know what he was, but...
So you see what's funny? What's funny... See, and this is what I liked about earlier. Aerith going... I'm actually going to really pull this back. Aerith going, oh, he was such a charming guy. I'm sure he had plenty of women in his life. Watch how Cissnei brings up Zack, clearly. Aerith has a reaction. And when Cissnei says, but he wasn't an ex or anything like that, she leans towards Aerith because she knows. Remember, Cissnei knew about Zack and Aerith. Cissnei knew about Zack and Cloud. She knows all of this.
As silly as it sounds, someone who isn't with us anymore. But he doesn't feel gone. It's like I wouldn't be surprised if I woke up one day and saw him outside our gates.
See, look. See how she's starting to hang her head? Like she's talking about Zack, like romantically almost, but here we go.
He's not an ex or anything like that.
Right? She leans towards Aerith. Aerith lifts her head, like clearly directed at her.
I don't know what he was, but I really miss the guy.
I get it.
Wish I could see him again. Make sure he's alright. Though if I'm being honest, it's just for my sake, isn't it? Not his.
Something happened between you?
This is gonna sound cryptic and weird, I know, but I stole part of his life from him. And I gotta carry that.
So I've seen a lot of, let me actually pull this back. I've seen a lot of people talk about this line. All I think what she's really implying is, if you recall the part of Crisis Core where the Turks were spying on Zack, they didn't make it seem like they were spying on him, but Zack even said, like, in his narration, he knew what that was about, that wherever he went, a Turk was there, whether it was Cissnei or Sung. So I think what she feels guilty about is that while Zack was a soldier and she was a Turk, that she was complicit in a lot of things that may have cost him his life or time. She liked him, though, Black Suit. She did. She did. She was one of his biggest fans.
But I stole part of his life from him. And I gotta carry that. Hold on. Didn't I say one question? Not sure I follow. You say you think I'm hiding something? I say you're reading too much into nothing.
You knew who I was when we showed up. It was written all over your face.
Cloud does have a sixth sense about this kind of thing. And honestly, I got that feeling too. Something's up.
Yes, because she, again, and there's a reason both Cloud and Aerith are the ones kind of in this conversation primarily, is because she knows who the two of them are, and the two of them could sort of sense that, you know?
Oh, fine. You caught me. Cloud, you and I have met before.
All right. When and where?
Now, only one question. I'm afraid you're gonna have to remember those details without any hints.
You know, Cissnei, if you only realize what you just said, you know?
So I'll be crushed if you can't manage. It's not like that, I promise. Don't worry.
Got anything to say, Cloud?
You can try again later.
Ask me again in part 3,
Well,
basically.
The truth is, that's none of your business.
Your ex-Shinra. That much I know for a fact.
And that's what I mean, is like it all... I'll keep it going.
But it's a big company. Nothing weird about crossing paths with someone who's got ties to it, current or former. Which
Like, literally all three of them have ties to it.
means there's no reason to hide them, unless you were part of some...
There it is. There it is. But it's a big company. Nothing weird about crossing paths with someone who's got ties to it, current or former.
Which means there's no reason to hide them, unless you were part of some...
You're more than welcome to think whatever theories you like.
Thanks.
I'd appreciate it, though, if you didn't share them with the villagers. I enjoy a very unique position in Gongaga. The big city girl with a mysterious past. Unless you spoil the fun for me. Know that I'm no enemy of yours and I won't get in your way. So please, just let me live my life. Oh, really? Well, that's probably for the best. There are times to talk, and times to not. Anyway, this world of ours is about to change.
Oh.
That's not my gut talking. The writing's been on the wall for a while now.
So, like, it's very obvious Cissnei is a very serious operative. Call her a double agent, call her a spy, maybe she's still a Turk.
And there's nothing we can do to stop what's coming.
I bet you could, if anyone.
That's sweet. You know, I think I see it now. What he saw in you. Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Yeah?
Yeah?
And on that note, let's head back. You worried about me? Don't be. I'm capable of handling the fiends around here.
Okay. And then, one last little Cissnei thing to cover. One last Cissnei scene I would like to cover before we break into a bit of a broad discussion about all of this. So I don't want to bring this up for nothing. So, you have this scene. Oh, I just realized I didn't even have it on screen. Okay. So we have this scene with Cissnei's cooking, which is terrible. So this is a little detail. It's an optional side quest. So there's not anything too prevalent to the plot here. But what I do like about it, you know, characters having deep flaws is important. Characters having deep flaws, deep character flaws and stuff like that is very important because those are the things we need to see a character overcome. But the benign flaws are always endearing. And what I mean by that is things like Yuffie gets nauseous on rides, Cissnei can't cook, things like that always make a character a little bit more endearing. Because Cissnei can't be good at everything, okay? She can't be good at everything.
Treat you guys to a bowl if you help with the ingredients.
So let's skip ahead a little bit.
Right. It's stabby. Unfortunately, it's lacking in the flavor department. The mushrooms to do the trick.
What more do you need?
Dogs probably park near the village.
Give it one more shot.
Of course, you have this nice little scene. Zach's girls working together, man. That's what we got here. Zach's girls working together. As best they can.
Whatever.
Huh. This might turn out okay. Told you.
I'll eat anything she cooks and like it like a man should. Not only that, let me see if I could pull this up, okay? You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but now that Lance has so eloquently spoken, I need to say something. I need to say something. Let me see here.
Dude! Cooking happened.
Okay, so cooking happened. Watch your feet. Okay, here's all I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say. As Lan says, I'll eat anything she cooks and like it like a man should. Not only that, if you look down here, if homegirls work in the kitchen in her booted heels, not only are you going to like everything that she cooks like a man should, you're going to treat her very well after. Or maybe she's wearing heels in the kitchen because you treated her well before. Either way, the point stands. Now, back to it.
Oops. Whatever.
Huh. This might turn out okay. Told you. The fairs are always inviting me over for dinner.
So interesting about that, right? The fairs are always inviting me over for dinner. And of course she has to tell Aerith this. That was the other thing too. And I'm glad this point came up. I'm actually glad this scene just came up with that point. I'm so glad because I almost forgot. I would have been so mad at myself if I didn't bring up this point. So, look. As stated earlier, a lot of this stuff, like including Cissnei and Rebirth, it makes the compilation better. Now, if you recall, one of Cissnei and Zach's last conversations, if not probably their last, Zach essentially did ask, I'm paraphrasing, but he did ask, if something were to happen to me, if something happens to me, can you look after my parents? Like, he did ask that of Cissnei. That was his ask. And to see, because again, you see that in Crisis Core, and then in OG you go to Gongaga and Cissnei's not there. Almost feels disconnected. But now you go to Gongaga, not only is Cissnei there, embodying the hero, but she's looking after Zach's parents. This completes This completes her relationship with Zack in a way that hadn't before. It makes it all whole. You understand? So, in a sense, Zack asking Cissnei to look after his parents, what he was asking for was, just check on them every once in a while. What Cissnei is doing is building a whole youth coalition group so that Gongaga can defend itself. Like she said in the previous scene, she knows something big is coming. So she's taking it upon herself that to make sure that no matter what comes, Gongaga and Zack's parents will be safe. And not only that, she's clearly made an effort to build a relationship with them too.
Thought I'd be nice and return the favor by making them poison, apparently. But as you can see, I'm a sore loser.
Cooking's never as easy as you think.
Got that right. Didn't need to learn back in Midgar. The company provided all our meals. Tasted like garbage, though. Don't know how I stomach the stuff.
Not bad, huh?
But what about the bombberry flavor?
Bombberry? What, like the military rations?
You just gave yourself up, Cissnei. You just gave yourself up.
Yeah, those. Sorry, that's really not important. What is important is the soup. The soup. Time to taste test.
She's cracking.
Whoa
She's
there.
cracking, chat.
I want to let it cool.
Right. Oops. That's pretty good. And that salt you guys managed to find definitely brings it all together. It's crazy how a few changes made such a huge difference. Great job.
Was that so hard, Cloud? Okay, was that so hard? Will you be bringing up the proto? Yeah, we're going to talk about the proto-relic scene. Don't you worry. We're covering all our bases.
Mission complete.
Here we go.
Well done. You've proven yourselves to be born Turks.
Wow, what an honor.
We Turks fight as one, but our duty may require us to sever our binding ties.
Okay. Again, and this is one of the things I love about Gongaga. No wasted breaths. Or at the very least, very few wasted breaths. Okay? Almost everything they say is for a reason. Here we go. We Turks fight as one, but our duty may require us to sever our binding ties. Who does that make you think of? Cissnei.
Which is precisely why.
Who's there?
And who shows up? So I'm not gonna lie, I've thought about, so her ID is GAI153. I've sat in front of this and been like, what could it mean? Is there any way to decode GAI153 and find out what her name is? See, I'm doing it right now. I can't afford to do that right now. Okay. General Affairs Auditing. So, good old Cissnei here is working in General Affairs Auditing. She cuts off before we get the sub-classification, which is going to be Turk, but makes you think. Give me one second. Oh, I think actually it does say sub-classification Turks if you listen. Yep.
Certainly didn't expect to run into you here.
Took the words right out of my mouth. What in the hell are you doing here?
Shinra sent me to inspect the facilities. Wanted to make sure they didn't have any unauthorized visitors wandering around.
Here we go.
GAI 153? Records indicate the individual with that ID underwent formal training. Wait, are you a Turk?
This is my favorite line from Cissnei, by the way. This is my favorite line from Cissnei.
That'll be enough probing. For my benefit, but mainly for yours.
That'll be enough probing. For my benefit, but mainly for yours. That's loaded. And I don't know if it's just a veiled threat, you know, to make her sound tough or to give Chadley caution, or if it's like, Chadley, if you figure out who I am, it's gonna wreck things.
It was enough of a pain to cover up the mess you made at the reactor. Try not to cause any more trouble, okay?
Sorry. Won't happen again.
Anyway, I'm heading back to the village. Once you're done here, I suggest you make tracks.
There's definitely more to her than meets the eye.
Hello? You good?
Hey, Chadley. What happened to the proto-relic?
Oh, forgive me.
So I do think it's funny that Chadley has a little bit of a crush here.
Suggest you make tracks.
There's definitely more to her than meets the eye.
Hello? You good?
Buddy
Hey,
is
Chadley.
smitten.
What happened to the proto-relic?
Oh, forgive me.
Buddy is smitten.
And there. Incredible. It appears that by restoring the fragmented data, we were able to break the proto-relic's encryption.
Translation?
The potential applications are practically limitless.
Let's throw that on. Give me a second. Let me make sure. Let me make sure I've covered all Cissnei. Okay. I do believe that's going to cover all Cissnei scenes from that chapter, which is good. Okay, cool. We could watch the Leaving Gongaga. I might as well put that on in the back while I'm yapping, honestly. Okay. Oop. There we go.
So, what are free flyer pilots exactly?
Well, since the Republic's on the scrap heap, Shinra all but...
Let's throw a mute on that. Okay. 1 equals A is the first letter of the alphabet. A, so Gaia, and then 5-3 being her middle and last initials. Yeah, I don't know. Ugh, I don't know, dude. Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to old Cissnei. And let me put a loop on this just in case we reach the end. Yep, it's on. Okay. So, I mean, look, ultimately speaking, I can't think of a location in FF7 that did it better than Gongaga. From top to bottom. From the sort of atmosphere it creates between its visuals and its theme song and, you know, the NPCs and the way the town is laid out, in terms of providing a unique atmosphere compared to the rest of the map, you just can't beat Gongaga. It really is a standout among the rest of the locations. And when we talk about things like pushing the narrative forward, there are many, you know, stops along the way that feel like a bit of padding or feel like a bit of filler. But everything that happened in Gongaga, from Zack's parents to bumping into Cissnei to going to the reactor to Tifa being in the live stream to coming back to Gongaga and learning more about Cissnei, it didn't waste a breath. It kept moving everything forward. So in that sense, it really doesn't get much better than that. And then when you think about building the lore and linking up this chronology of the original FF7 to the rest of the compilation, the effortlessness of including Cissnei, making her a part of Zack's legacy in more ways than one, in terms of uniting it and, you know, giving closure to the end of Crisis Core in that sense. Again, with Gongaga, it really doesn't get much better than that. Also check the replies. Let me check. Let me see what I can even see here. Let me see if you've pulled up anything that we can check. Vincent's ID was GAI012. So GAI is just the label, and the number is probably what number agent you were. Right? So Vincent was GAI012 because he was one of the first Turks. Like, he was pretty early, like, on the ground floor in that sense. So maybe with Cissnei, 153 is just after all these years have passed, she's just the 153rd. That's interesting. I do appreciate you sending that over. Mr. Lauro Bluebell. But with that said, it doesn't really get much better than Gongaga. When you look at everything that the trilogy aims to do, what it accomplished, all the things that need to be accounted for, not just moving the narrative forward, but including the compilation into the lore and to continue expanding. You know, it's funny. You told me to read the replies and I didn't, so I'll pull this up for when I'm done. But, the point being is, with everything that was on that checklist for Gongaga, because it was a location everybody was looking forward to. We knew the implications. We knew it was going to be Zack-oriented and Zack's parents. But the way that they sort of turned Gongaga into something, honestly, more metaphorical, for lack of a better term. In the sense that, you know, just like Zack is the hero of the legend of FF7, and that Cloud, our protagonist, is carrying out that hero's path that was laid out to him by Zack, that sort of, you know, embodying the hero motif of honor and things of that sort. Having Gongaga, the way Zack is the sort of metaphorical hero of the story, for lack of a better term, they've allowed Gongaga to be Zack if he was a location. In the way Zack embodies all the qualities of a hero, Gongaga embodies all the qualities of the planet. And, you know, everything that the planet, you know, deems as good, as the good, the beautiful, and the true. Here, let's pull this back now a little bit more. Pull it back to about here. So, when I account for all of that, that Gongaga was turned from, hey, this is where Zack's parents are. It's this mysterious location, one splash screen. And again, it got turned into that this is the planet at its best. That you go to Gongaga and you learn that the planet still has a lot of fight in it. That the planet is still fighting, right? And that you see Tifa fall into the live stream and she comes back to tell us, hey, the planet is still winning. You know, that thread of symbolism from Zack to Gongaga to being a hero and saving the planet, all of it being so fluent and so threaded evenly, I think was beautifully done. Okay. So, going back to how Vincent was GAI-012, Cissnei is GAI-153. I'll get a little bit more on screen here. It says, these numbers themselves may also be references. 012, a reference to duodecim. More continuously, 153, used as a crowd of people. You know what, I like Thundal here. I think you might be looking into it a little bit too much. None of that's really clicking. At least for me, anyway. But again, if Zack doesn't die by part 3, I already see people saying this is the worst remake trilogy ever. Zack is dead. Zack is dead. Maybe that's news to you, Andy, and to some other people. But Zack is dead. He is still dead. He's never stopped being dead. So, I mean, maybe that's just my interpretation, and maybe I'll be wrong about it in part 3. But the way I see it, he's still dead. He's just acting within the life stream. Again, we learned in On the Way to a Smile that if somebody has a strong enough will, they can maintain themselves in the life stream. That's how Sephiroth is able to do it. That's how Aerith is able to do it. And that's how Zack is able to do it. Whether you're talking about Advent Children, whether you're talking about On the Way to a Smile, or in my opinion, whether we're talking about Remake and Rebirth. The same thing sort of applies. So I think we can count on Zack staying dead, but now that Aerith is dead, Zack and Aerith can reunite for a reunion, which is what I believe they have been building towards this whole time. Take a little swig of water before we continue. Thank you very much. Okay. But, and I'll make this a little bit more general in terms of what I want to say. You know, there's a lot of conversation in the FF7 community. Obviously. Always has been. Since 97, honestly. And inside the debate of, is it a remake, reimagining, a time loop, a sequel, what's going on here? Within that conversation, I see a lot of people, in a sense, asking the question of, well, if the ending's not going to be different, right? If the ending's not going to be different, then what were all these changes for? If it's still going to end where it links up with Advent Children and Dirge and all of that, then what were all these changes for? And I think people who tend to think that way, you know, I think they keep looking at the ending, and they're looking at all the changes FF7 is making and thinking as if all these changes have to do with the ending. But I think what a lot of people aren't seeing is that a lot of these changes, like Cissnei being in Gongaga, is not about the ending. It's about the journey and linking up the journey, right, with the compilation, making it more fluent, making it more concrete. Okay, we got to the end of Remake, right, guys? And when we got to the end of Remake, what did it say? The unknown journey will continue, not the unknown destination will arrive, right? You have to think of the changes in terms of the journey, not the destination. It's not the unknown destination will arrive, or we will arrive at the unknown destination. The destination's going to be the same. We're going to the same destination. It will link up with Advent Children. The devs have said so themselves. But what's changed, what's unknown, is the journey. Because now on the journey along the way, we bump into Cissnei and Gongaga, a la Crisis Core. We bump into Kyrie and Midgar, a la the kids are all right. You know? We bump into the Doctor from Traces of Two Past. It's about changing the journey, not the destination. We're walking the same path. We're going to the same place. But along the way, some things have just changed, like Cissnei being in Gongaga. So again, when I see so much of the conversation about the changes be so focused on the ending, I honestly feel like a lot of people are approaching this from their conclusion backwards. Like their conclusion is changes must mean different ending. If not different ending, then why changes? When this was never really about changing the ending. It was really mostly about changing things along the way as we get there. Because as I said, it's still going to link up with Advent Children. So in light of that, I think Gongaga is a prime example of what people actually want from these changes. I don't think people, contrary to some beliefs, I don't think most people want the ending to be fundamentally different than the original. They would like for things to mostly stay intact. Maybe we get a little bit more closure, a little bit more of an epilogue, but for things to mostly stay intact and eventually lead on the way to Advent Children. But like we said, the remake question was never the unknown destination will arrive. It was the unknown journey will continue. And when we look at Cissnei and we look at Gongaga and we look at these changes that have to do with Zack, we see that that's the wrong context to approach these changes in. Will some of these changes affect the ending? Of course. But the idea that all these changes have to do with the ending, and that if the ending isn't fundamentally different, then why the changes, in my opinion, is not engaging with the material in the way that it should be. That again, the changes are not all about the ending. They're about the journey. And that's what Gongaga really shows us, in my opinion. That's what Gongaga is here to show us in a lot of ways, okay? Tifa didn't go through that whole thing with the weapon in the original. You know what I'm saying? She didn't recover her own memories in that sense in the original. That's what this is about. Again, all these changes are not going to funnel into the ending. It doesn't work that way, in my opinion, right? It's all about along the way, with the destination ultimately being the same. Now, look, I'll tell you guys, I'm working on a podcast that's going to be very long like this one, where I'm building the case against sequel theory. I used to think sequel theory was what was happening here. Since Integrate and Traces of Two Past and Rebirth, I no longer think that's the case. I think it's very obvious what's happening now. If it ends up being sequel, sure, I'm all for it. As long as the execution is good, I'm here for the ride. But I don't think that's what's going on anymore. And I think this idea that all these changes have to be about the ending, or the idea that like most fans would like for the ending to be fundamentally different or for Advent Children to not matter anymore, I don't think is the case. I think that's not taking the devs at their word, which would be important to do, and not engaging with the story in the way it's engaging with us, for lack of a better term. You know what I'm saying? All right. Mr. M says, I love the OG, and the remake series is in more depth of their backstories instead of a quick summary for all. Yeah, and again, this is why we've highlighted Gongaga today, because if the point is to add depth and to add layers, then there's no questioning the amount of depth and layers Gongaga has in this trilogy completely dwarfs the original. And I say that as an OG supremacist. Andy says the shippers are the worst to interact with. I'm going to challenge you on that a little bit. I like their low-hanging fruit. It's easy to dunk on shippers. But, if you have shippers who ship Cloud and Tifa, I don't think they're shippers. I think they just like the story. Like, I've started to approach that a little differently. Like, if somebody ships Cloud and Tifa, are they really shippers, or do they just love the story of FF7? You catch my point? So that's why I've started to ease up a little bit on that. Okay. Let's see. GAI, General Affairs, Auditing and Information. It's just the acronym for hiding that her employee department is under the Turks. Right, when they did that scene at the end with the proto relic. I got you there. But look, that's ultimately what I'm aiming at here with all of that is I think at the very least, those of us who are online and talk about this story, talk about this game, talk about this series, we have to do a better job at engaging with these changes for what they actually are. And maybe I'm wrong at the end of it. But again, these changes are about building depth to the journey, not forking us into a new destination. And I think we have a lot of people who think all of this is about forking us into a new destination. And because of that, they can't make sense of any of this. And that's why they're going, well, if the ending doesn't really change, then what was the point? And the point simply was, and the reason why I bring this up here on the Gongaga episode, the point for the most part was to take Gongaga, something that was very quick, a quick splash screen, went by very rapidly in the original, and build it into something that has a lot of depth and a lot of layers and has more characters like Cissnei and makes the compilation more fluent with the original narrative. Because now when you go to Gongaga, Cissnei is there. Things like that. That's what these changes are about. And I can understand that some people don't really like the compilation. You know what I'm saying? I'm someone who does, even though I think the original game dwarfs everything that came after it. I still do enjoy the compilation. And to see them include characters like Cissnei and Nero in these ways, in my opinion, has made the world of FF7 feel like it has more depth. Like it has more layers to it, all in all. Advent Children DLC or them explaining the Genesis ending. Yeah, I think Advent Children DLC is possible. I'll say that. I think Advent Children DLC is possible. Not probable. What I think is more likely is that they're going to re-release Advent Children with the new voice actors. That's what I think. Mr. M says, I'm not going to question the devs because this is a whole new experience with deeper detailed explanations to help connect the dots. I'm just along with the journey and Gongaga helps with it. Yeah, Mr. M, that's the approach kind of that I'm really taking this from is I'm going to take these devs at their word when they say, hey, listen, we're not going to fundamentally change this world. Okay. The ending will still link up with Advent Children. We intend to preserve the core of the original game and the core of the original story while making changes that add more mysteries, add more depth, add more layers. And if we take them at their word, the whole Gongaga chapter makes perfect sense. Alrighty. Oh my goodness, we're coming up on 3 hours. A 3-hour episode's amazing, honestly. Let me just tighten this real quick. There we go. But that's really my point here. And when it comes to that episode where I'm going to try and really tackle sequel theory for all its points, I'm going to save that for after the trailer drops. Because I think the lack of FF7 news, some people have some tight buttholes out there. It can be a little touchy. Before I talk about such a touchy subject, I'm going to wait till there's more news, people are happier, there's more to talk about. And honestly, the incoming trailers might shine a light on all of this for all we know. Them saying they didn't want to do DLC for Part 2 so they could finish Part 3 quickly makes it seem like Part 3 will have DLC. Yeah, but the question is, what does that DLC look like? Is it Advent Children DLC or is it going to be On the Way to a Smile? Like, they might have more of an interest by creating a DLC of one of the novels than of Advent Children. I personally would prefer Advent Children, but they'll do what they're going to do. But with that said, I am going to wrap up today's episode here. We're coming up on 3 hours. I guess all I would say is I really had a great time with this one. I love talking Rebirth. I love talking FF7. I loved Gongaga, and you guys know I love Cissnei. So this was an absolute treat for me. Let me give a big old shout out to Josh Z, dropping a $20 super chat on us today, which was beautiful. Ocean 0077, thank you for following us over on Twitch. And yeah, with that, we're going to wrap things up here. Big podcast. It was a big podcast. I had a lot of fun with it. I always have fun with it. You know, I love doing this show. And luckily, with State of Play and Summer Games Fest on the way, there'll be more to talk about soon. But with that said, we're going to wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Thank you so much for taking part in this conversation. I love you guys. I love FF7. So be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I will see all of you sickos and normies next time.